All right, Death Knights Roundtable starting now. It was a struggle. It was a struggle to get this going. Not gonna lie, a little bit of technical difficulties. Not yeah, well, but yeah, yeah. We death gripped it into existence. So here we go. Exactly. Exactly. But hey, so I'm not going to waste too much time on introductions. We got Amnetv, we got Pizzadawg, and Popo. All three of you guys are experts in your specific field of preferred Death Knight. So let's just roll. Let's just roll into. Let's get this going. Death Knights. So the trees are out. They've been out for a while. I'm going to be honest. The thing I'm liking the most right now is that the necrotic aura, all specs have access to it. Death's Echo is now in. I don't know. I like it. The fact that Chill Streak is in the talent tree spec for Frost, and so it's pulled out. But and also Death's Echo is in the general tree as well. So I'll throw it to you, I guess. I think go for it. Yep.
outside.
The
Indeed.
struggle, it's real against physical damage dealers, to be fair. And yeah, I'm also very excited for Death's Echo. I think it's a very good addition to the base toolkit of
Yeah, dude,
all
I
the specs.
played it so much, dude, last season. Like, I honestly had it locked in more than Chill Streak, I'm not gonna lie. And it feels like something the spec needs because there's so many things that can go wrong in terms of like a grip setup, even for like Unholy, not just Frost. Like, there's someone
Hold
can
on.
blink as you grip them, etc. You know, it's a lot that can go wrong. It gives you more room for error, you know, human error.
I I gotta say something here. Pizza. You're is it my headset? But you're getting quieter
No.
and quieter.
Really,
He got
Yeah.
quiet for me
I'll
too.
bring the mic up, no problem.
Yeah. No,
Alright, my
I'm
fault,
losing
my
you,
fault.
man.
How I sound now right now?
You're a whisper. I have you
I'm a
cranked to
whisper.
max, and you're a whisper.
Maybe I try rejoining the call. How does that sound?
Sure, you do that. While you
Alright.
do that, I want to throw Amne. For you, first and foremost, what are you in the general tree? What are you probably most excited for?
Oh, okay, so there are a lot of things, but the most exciting it's the fact that you will receive 30% damage reduction when you fall below 30% health. I think this is one of the greatest changes, and it will help you so much surviving those melee cleaves.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 minutes IBF.
2 minutes IBF. Yeah, that looks
Yes.
pretty sweet. Not gonna.
I think those two additions will just remove from the weaknesses DKs have against melee cleaves, against physical dealers, especially against the Fury Warrior comps right now. I think all of us are struggling against Fury comps.
So, but I guess that's the thing. We're talking about Dragonflight. Like, do you think we're gonna see that same heavy melee? Maybe not season one, but into the later seasons. Are we expected to see that, or are we thinking it's going to be more of a I don't know, like a wizard cleave to begin with?
Um, to be fair, I haven't looked exactly on the other classes, but what I've like they can take notes about was warriors. I saw that Fury got a bit nerfed.
Mhm.
They removed the charge from their raging blow when they are breaking, which is actually healthy for the game that they did that. I think, in my opinion, they should have done this change earlier season 3. It's like I think it's a bit toxic to have like a mobility um, ability together with your with your button that you're
rotation.
yeah exactly with the button that you're pressing like 5 times a second. Like I think it's a bit toxic, to be fair.
All right. Oh, hold on there. I need to pull pizza. I guess. Popo, how about you? Is there anything in the general tree that you're excited for? And are you worried about warriors at all?
Well, as a tank, not really. but but also as blood, well, and in regards to the general tree, there's a couple of things. The most notably Gloom Ward being added to the general tree, which synergizes perfectly with Blood's Mastery, which is an absorb shield to physical damage. And then plus what was mentioned earlier, the 2-minute IBF, the Will of Necropolis, finally all specs have it, which honestly, if you ask me, it fits. Blizzard was really going hard with this whole class theme thing. Like bring the class, not the spec, whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like my idea of a Death Knight is a slow moving, like just ball of death. Like they're really slow, but once you get up to them, they do a lot of damage. And I feel like with Death's Echo, especially as a blood main, I can in random battlegrounds or playing in world PvP, whatever, or in rated, whatever. I can. It's almost second nature now that it's in the PvE tree to just steal healers. Just
Yeah.
like, oh, you're gonna heal, you're gonna go over the hit. No, you're coming with me.
But
And I think it's really good. I'm excited.
so I have to ask the thing. For oh no. Sorry, I guess Pizza's having a bit of some Discord issues. Hopefully he'll be able to get in here soon. I have to ask, do you think that is a reasonable game style for like in RBGs is to steal a healer and pull him off into Africa on a map?
Hey man, if it works, it ain't crazy.
I mean, fair. If the game mechanic's there, the game mechanic's there for a reason. So,
And like over the years, I've gotten a lot of shit for playing a tank in PvP, but it's it's whatever. Like, what are you gonna do? Make me stop?
no. I will say, and this is controversial, but I think every class should be able to play, or every spec should be able to play in PvP. Question about viability and how high up the ranks a tank spec should get. I think that's the debate really, but I personally think that if I want to play a tank spec and I like to PvP, I should be able to do that and not have to only play the flag carrier meta flavor of the month, if you will.
Well, here I want to interrupt you a bit, but I agree. Like the RBG meta should be like that, but talking about arenas, I feel like tanks should just replace the healers or not being able to queue with healers. Right now on EU, there's a phenomenon when people are playing Prot, Fury, and Healer, usually Disc or Resto Druid. And they're like 10 plus minute games. Nobody's dying, especially if you play DK when all your damage is I mean, not all, but most of your damage is magical, and they have the Blessing of Spell Warden. And okay, they just deny your 2-minute go. I don't know exactly how it's the meta in NA, if those kind of comps are queuing. Here, Pizza can tell us.
Yo. Oh wait, yo, you guys hear me now?
Yes.
You still sound like super far away, buddy.
Okay, what about now? Like when it's
Yeah,
close?
now I
Still
can
bad?
totally hear you. Yes.
All right, perfect. Yeah, no, dude, I ran into a couple Fury Warrior prop pally teams. I know all about that stuff. And yeah, no, I agree. By the way, I was agreeing with everything you guys were saying too, especially like, I mean, I haven't played much Blood, but when I did try and play Blood, I did feel like it kind of sucked not having Death's Echo. Like Popo was saying, like it frees up a lot of things being able to take Death's Echo. But yeah, nah, tanks have definitely been making their way into arena lately. Mainly, what I see is like Guardian Druids and Prot Pallies pairing up
Yeah.
with Fury Warriors. But the clear repeating pattern you usually see is that it's usually paired with something like a Fury Warrior, which has like really strong Mortal Strike. And if that says anything, it's that tanks are really missing a lot of kill pressure on their own. Right, if they need something like a Fury Warrior that can like bring like the strongest MS in the game just to like slowly close out a kill, you know what I mean? Maybe they might need some more damage like opportunity, like more damage options and talent trees and stuff like that, right? But I don't know. I don't know too much about like on the tank side, but I know they have a lot of good utility. Just it's probably just a damage thing to be honest, man. You know?
Well,
you know what? I'm actually glad you brought that up because that's exactly what Blood is getting in Dragonflight.
Oh, hey,
Oh,
that's
nice,
good to
that's nice.
hear, dude.
Yeah.
Cause I don't know, I like the idea of Blood because like thematically, right? It's kind of a lot closer to like a warrior with like spells than like, you know, maybe any of the other specs in the game, right? And you look at Unholy's like really focused on the spells and the pets, and Frost is just like its whole other thing, AoE kind of damage, right? And when you look at Blood, it's like this is where he's got the heart strikes, the death strikes, all that kind of stuff, right? And I feel like, you know, you probably should be able to pump some crazy damn, dude. At least during like a burst window, you know what I mean? Like that could be like a specialty. So I mean that's good to hear. Cause I haven't been doing too much research on the Blood side, but from what I hear from other DKs, a lot of Unholy DKs and a lot of Frost DKs are happy, right? So it's always good to see my red boys out there too, the Blood boys, that, you know, being happy as well. It just looks like everyone's winning, you know what I mean? You get good talents, it's all good, dude. And so I'm hype about that for sure.
I think that's a really good point. Is that, and that's the big thing that we're really seeing here in Dragonflight is that everybody's getting like this whole talent tree and the number of choices that you have. Some really great choices being provided to all the specs and all the classes is just amazing. It's such a turnaround to what we've been experiencing in the past several expansions.
Yeah, a crazy thing is like
exactly.
going into the Dragonflight before like all the talents were even announced. I kind of knew for like pretty much all the DK specs that like for the classes to really be in a really good feeling good spot, we would need like big changes, right? That's what my thought process was, and I didn't really expect us to like hit that benchmark with just a change of talent trees, right? But you see a lot of these things come out, and it's like it's actually a lot simpler than it seems. Like you look at like the probably one of the most impactful talents, like Amne was saying, is that damage reduction below 35% health thing, the Will of the Necropolis. It's like one of the simplest talents, but it's so good at combating like one of DK's like biggest weaknesses, right? Or you look at like the PvP talents, like we kind of just can't afford to take what we need to take. And the second that they assist us with that and they give us some simple ways to either just get in a talent tree or some more windows to be able to deal with physical damage, all of a sudden it's like, yo, you know what, I mean, DKs actually don't seem like they got that many problems in the kit, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I was very surprised for sure when I saw talent trees, especially after the updates, because like they first dropped it was really good stuff, but they could have still done some extra things, make it like a little bit more exciting rather than just like, okay, it looks like the class is finally going to be like a good spec, like a reliable spec to main, right? But now, like the last patch that came in, dude, we're getting like really hype stuff, dude. Like for all the specs, especially Frost, dude. Like I got so much stuff I want to talk about Frost because it's really
Well,
like fundamental changes for the spec for the better that I don't think we've seen the likes of since like Legion, to be honest. Which is
Well,
like,
let's
DK fucking the DK time to be, you know what I mean? That's when you wanted to be a DK for sure.
well let's get into it then. Come on, Pizza. Hey, so
All right, well,
I brought up your first tree here. Like, what?
okay, yeah.
What
That's
are you
the
excited
chill
about?
streak tree, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
what I'm really excited about, and it's actually something we've had this whole time. It's just not that simple because we've had it this whole time. We just couldn't take it, and that's gonna be Ice Cap because Ice Cap is as like a last talent row in the current in Shadowlands right now. That's
Mhm.
one of the 3 choices in your last row. And it's a really good talent. Basically reduces the cooldown of Pillar every time you get crits on Obliterate and Frost Strike. As we all know, Frost DKs only play the game during Pillar of Frost. So that's like a really big thing you want to get. But if you go and you take Ice Cap right now in the current game, you basically miss out on something even better, which is Obliteration, which makes the Pillar scary in the first place. And you look at a Dragonflight talent tree, we can take both now. And it's actually reliable to get in the talent tree too. They don't make you like mess up your whole build and everything just to get this like combo. They make it pretty easy for you to get it. Kind of like they know. It's kind of like they know that the class needs Pillar of Frost more often to even make sense in PvP. Because right now it's a very cheese play style, and even though you can make it work, I made it work really well, and I still had a lot of fun playing it. But I feel like it's just an unhealthy game design route that Blizzard had chosen in the past, at least going into Shadowlands. But with Dragonflight, with us being able to take Ice Cap, I think that's going to make the spec so much more fun. And it's also just going to make it feel a lot less like cheese, No one likes chasing a DK around for a minute. That doesn't make sense. You see a DK, expect him to stay in doing damage the whole time, right? It's like right now in Shadowlands, we kind of play like a sub rogue. We're running half the time, right? And that just, I don't know. I don't think any DKs signed up for that when they picked a plate wearer, you know what I mean? So I'm really excited about that. And another thing is you get something called Shattering Strikes. And I don't know what the numbers are on it yet, but I imagine Blizzard would probably keep an eye on it to make sure it's useful. But this basically makes one of our other rotation abilities, Frost Strike, useful too, because right now it's literally all Obliterate. You could actually take off Howling Blast off your bars. You could take off Remorseless Winter as long as you're playing with a stun class. In Shadowlands, you could take all that stuff out of your bars because the only thing that really matters is Frost Strike and Obliterate. Frost Strike only matters because it buffs up your Obliterate, not because of Frost Strike in itself. And in Dragonflight, this talent Shattering Strikes, it's gonna give us like basically some ways to make Frost Strike pump a little more, which is nice. And not only that, but it's like there's some interaction with it too. It's not just like a flat out buff to Frost Strike. There's some interaction with the Rune Forges, and it leads to another talent. This one's cool too. I don't remember the exact name on it, but it's right next to the Shattering Strikes, like to the right of it, I think. It makes your Avalanche like talent. It adds a stack of Razor Ice every time you use Howling Blast with a proc. And that ties in hand with the Shattering Strikes. Now all of a sudden your rotation goes from being Obliterate, Frost Strike, Obliterate, over and over to maybe like, okay, maybe there's some times where using Howling Blast is actually a big bonus to that, and you can start building up towards this big Frost Strike. And it's fun, dude. It's fun being able to use other abilities and feel like they're useful. That's just really cool thing, dude.
I love it. So I noticed. So you kind of went across 2 trees there. So you had the one tree which was the chill streak tree, which followed the frost spec to the far right to get chill streak, and then this other one where you went into with the shattering strike, where you gave up your chill streak to then just be able to pump your shatterings.
Yeah. Sorry.
No worries. Just kind of curious though. This third one you had, which was the tankiest version. What does that bring to, or how does that change your chill streak, and what does that bring to you?
So basically, a lot of the changes in that tree, you'll see it's in the class tree, right? And this is something like I briefly mentioned before, is you get choices not only in how you deal damage, but how you take damage too, right? You get to choose between whether you want to focus on magic damage protection or physical damage protection, right? And in that tree that I made the tanky spec, I made specifically just to piss off those Fury Warriors and Feral Druids and Outlaw Rogues and all that, to literally take every single defensive talent that I could possibly take. Like, I'm talking Asphyxiate, I'm talking Lichborn Conduit kind of stuff, Death Pact, like the whole 9 yards. Even like, if I don't even remember if I took Blood Draw or not, but if not, I was trying to take that too. Like, and basically the whole point
you
is
did.
you have a lot of choices that you can take here that you never really had before. And all those things combined together, even though there's small things, each and every one, like Sacrificial Pact on its own isn't going to save you, right? When you talk Sacrificial Pact plus Death Pact plus an Asphyxiate stun to peel and stuff, and that might just be enough to maybe make the hunters say, like, yo, maybe let's just go the warrior instead because this is not working. You know what I mean? It's not worth it. And especially when you see him dancing around 30% HP because that Wood and Acropolis, like, it's no bueno, dude. They need a change of plan. And to be honest, a big thing is the enemy team, they might just assume that you're taking these talents. So you could actually be playing like a squishy build, and they might not even know that you are like, you're buffed up for this scenario. You know, you're ready for that kind of stuff, you know? And that's a cool thing. And maybe there'll be weak auras to track that kind of stuff. I'm not sure. But
there probably will be.
regardless, like, you would basically have to be feeling kind of ballsy to be in trouble with these guys and just dropping these defensive talents. Which, by the way, there is a big drawback sometimes because, at least in my builds, you can see in my tanky build, I don't have that Empower Rune weapon, right? Which it's a nice big, it's an iconic cooldown for Frosty Case. It makes your setups just feel a lot more fluid, right? And so it definitely sucks to not have it, right? But in those kind of matchups, dude, like in Shadowlands, when I see a jungle cleave, I just assume it's an instant loss almost, right? And so being able to say, okay, well, even if that drops my damage and stuff, it's all good, dude. At least I get to live, you know what I mean? So that's basically like the main thing in the tanky tree. I still run pretty much the same talents in the frost tree for that chill streak spec compared to the first chill streak spec, but you see some big differences in the clash tree for sure. And I also like there's even I could have gone even a more tanky too. Like I could have taken the anti-magic zone talent as well. Which another thing, by the way, I don't know if a lot of people know, but you know, AMZ got a nerf like last season. And so it's like 50% in PvP. And when the talents got announced, the new Dragonflight talents got announced, it says 20% on the tooltip. So it's like, oh, is it actually, did they like nerf it even more? Is it maybe 20%? But from what I've heard on the beta and the PTR, it's still 50%, which means if you take that talent below it, Assimilation, which increases the damage reduction by another 10%, that's a 60% AMZ, which you don't even have to pick a PvP talent for, which is really nice considering you still got Spell Warden waiting for you in the PvP talents. So you could actually get even tankier than it seems. It's really nice stuff.
Wow. I actually
I'm really happy
noticed.
about that.
I'm just going through the different trees here, and yeah, the only person that actually picked up Assimilation is Popo for his blood spec.
Oh, I can see why. Because I mean, dude, that's the thing about blood is when you're looking at the other tanks in PvP, what do they have that blood doesn't have? They can make not only themselves unkillable, but they can make their partners unkillable, right? And I think as of at least in Shadowlands right now, you can't do much besides heal them with grips. And I think there's like a vampiric blood legendary, which isn't gonna go as long of a way as something like Proc Pally giving you 1,000,000 invulnerabilities, right? So, I know AMZ, that's basically like your little invulnerability that you have, even though it's every 2 minutes. That stuff, that's gonna count, bro. When you trinket zone against RMP, dude, he's gonna be chilling. And especially with the 60%. So I mean, I can see Popo's vision, dude. He's a man with a plan, dude. He's
Yep.
trying to keep his boys safe too. He's trying to have mini blood decays with him. You know what I'm saying? So I respect it. I respect it. I'll make sure that when I play with Popo, dude, I'm not taking no AMS talents and stuff because he's got my back with that assimilation.
Oh,
And also, another thing to note is that Blood just automatically has a better AMZ because it scales off of what is it? It's
Yeah, the max
versatility and
HP,
total
right?
health.
And burst.
So it's like, honestly, I could probably just not even take it. I know one of my builds I didn't take it, but one of them, you know, one of my builds is like a world PvP kind of thing, and we all know how busted world PvP is.
I wonder
Oh
And
how.
hell
so,
yeah!
so
I-
that oh my
does
god, I don't know
everybody?
if y'all have ever played a take in world PvP, but it feels
It's
amazing
fun.
not dying.
Yeah.
It is. It's like you're just a raid boss. It's great.
Yeah, yo, Popo, how do you feel about the double chains of ice talent? Do you feel like that's useful for blood too, or what do you think? Because, dude, when I saw the double chains of ice thing, I was hyped because, like, I feel like the frost DK, right? You'd imagine like, yo, like I should have a unique kind of slow that, like, not like an Asa rogue where they're gonna be able to like do the same thing as you, 100% uptime, 70% slow, right? You got as a DK now, double chains of ice, like it was already a nice strong slow, but now you can kind of deal with even like stuff like BM Hunter pets and just one global like
Mhm.
that. You can really like as a blood DK, I'd imagine, right? If let's say they're on your team and you don't have like those pally and vulnerabilities to give them, one global and two chains applied. You know what I mean? That's what we like to see, dude. So what do you think about that, Popo?
Oh man, I can definitely see me using double chains of ice in rated battlegrounds, or possibly, if I just want to kill some time, play some threes, maybe The Walking Dead.
You mentioned RBGs, dude. That's true because I know when I play RBGs, dude, my Aussie friends yelling in my ears like, "Yo, you gotta change the healers, man. You gotta change the healers." I'm like, "Bro, like I'm trying to pillar frost up in this, man." You know what I mean? And so like, that would speed it up. Like that would get me back to the team fight a lot faster, you know. And
Hmm.
so I don't know, dude. Like it's like one of those simple talents. It doesn't really like change. Like it doesn't make some crazy difference to your rotation or anything. It's just, hey, dude, two's better than one, bro. You know what I mean? And I can agree on that. So I'm taking that double chains all day. Something minor too. I like to see, that's advanced. The Shadowlands conduit staying in the game, and like I'd imagine a lot of other talent trees are probably getting a lot of mobility and stuff. And so that's just a nice way to deal with it. Which, speaking of mobility, we're getting more of that counter mobility. I'm talking a 40-yard grip, dude. That's reach. Man, I actually cannot explain how hype I am for this. Cause with Frost DK being so like setup based, it
Hmm.
all starts with the death grip, right? You mess up that death grip, bro, your team's gonna be face palming, dude. You're gonna have to wait till the next grip, or you're just gonna have to do some scuffed setup. No bueno, right? And I know, dude, once you get like high rating, bro, like those healers, they're smirking to themselves. They're like, dude, I know he can't grip right now, dude. We're chilling, dude. Don't worry. As long as I don't get grip, we're chilling. But bro, 40-yard range, dude, and I got two of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, what are they gonna be able to do, bro? So that's really hype, bro. That's really hype.
I
And you still get like stuff like delirium. You still get all these other things from the PvP talent tree, at least for Frost. That it doesn't feel like you're cheesing yourself out for taking Death's Reach like you used to feel in Shadowlands taking it. Cause dude, you take that in Shadowlands, you're dropping Blinding Sleep. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? RBGs, I can see it happening though, right? But in Arena, you're gonna wish you have that Blinding Sleep when them Windwalker pets come flying your way. But what were you gonna
Hmm.
say? Sorry for cutting you off.
well, I gotta agree. That's rich. It's actually huge for us. It's the cherry on top of the cake, let's say, because
Mhm.
I remember like I was playing in season 1 and 2 Frost, Walking Dead, and well, when you got higher BMR, yes, it was a real issue. Like
It is, dude.
90,
Our druids, bro, they stay so far
like
away. I don't know how they're still
95.
healing from there, but they
Yeah,
figure it
exactly,
out.
exactly. Like 95% of the healers are just like sitting 200 yards away,
Literally,
and you
no
just can't
exaggeration.
do.
It's crazy.
Well, yeah, I like to exaggerate a bit, but it's still the setups were super hard to.
It actually is. It seriously is. Even when like like you actually, if you don't have help from your team, it's almost impossible. Straight up. So with the 40-yard grip, dude, for one, it's gonna make it a lot easier for newer, unexperienced DKs, and two, it's gonna make it easier for the more experienced DKs to be able to like deal with better players, basically players that are very aware of what you're gonna do. And this is a big thing that I've always liked about Unholy that Frost hasn't had for a long time. It's the unpredictability, right? Unholy can kind of do damage and force people to come out. And even if the healer wants to sit behind the pillar, the healer might be he might be making a problem for himself by just staying out of the fight for too long. People get too low. And with Frost now, you basically it's looking like you're gonna be able to do damage and force people out too. But not only that, but the grip being a really long range, you have a lot more leeway to get people in when you're in a bad spot for a grip. And I like the sound of that a lot, dude. I like that a lot. And you know, you have two grips now, baseline. I don't know. I'm gonna have a lot of fun. Cause dude, caster it's not even just healers, bro. You play against a double caster cleave like Mage Lock, they make you feel so bad, dude. You're slowed by like 70% by the mage the whole time. You're just trying like, dude, I just want to grip one person in, let alone two. It becomes a nightmare, right? And this basically, it's just a nice change that makes the class feel less cheese. And that's like something I've been seeing with a lot of these talents. It's like it's feeling like a realer spec, like Frost, even like for any of the specs, dude. Straight up, I hate feeling like I'm playing a gimmick. You know what I mean? Because gimmicks
It
don't work
is
in high
indeed.
rating.
Yeah, it really is. Like I felt the same whenever I was queuing Frost. I felt the same. Like it's either you just your Windwalker just one shots because you set up for him, or you just don't win.
Exactly. And there's so many
Mhm.
things that can go wrong, dude. Straight up. Like, I don't know, Death Grip bug, I swear is still in the game. Sometimes it just randomly it just turns its back on me, dude. I can't trust it, you know? And when that happens, bro, like it actually is such a big deal. Because if you can't set up a perfect go for the Windwalker or maybe even Arms or whatever you're playing with, it's just you're not gonna win because right now you're a support class. And I'm hyped to finally see us moving a little bit out of that support class niche to maybe some pump, dude. We might just be blasting kids the whole game. Like a lot of these talents, I've noticed in the Frost spec at least, there's like room for playing maybe even crit instead of mastery. You could even, you know, you can do damage the whole game. And I don't know, dude. I like the sound of that a lot. There's just more like decision making to be made. Like whether or not it's viable or not, I don't care. But right now, Frost is so one dimensional, and it's nice when it works, but players are not one dimensional these days. You know, there's a lot of research they can do. That you could probably just ask your favorite streamer, "Yo, how do I deal with Frosty Kid?" He says it's simple. Hey man, just disarm the pillar. Hey man, line the grip, and then you know now you find yourself in big trouble against those kind of players. And just more options, dude. I love all the options they have in these trees. Like,
Hold on. So
what were you gonna say?
I need to inject this a little bit here because I find it
Mhm.
really interesting this whole conversation about the extra 10-yard long grip for the Death Reach, but Amne, you didn't pick it for Unholy.
Yes, because I don't think Unholy is exactly that demanding on doing setups like Frost is. It's like on Frost, if you cannot do setups, you basically can it's like leave the game because
True.
You might as
it's
well
like
just
Sometimes I
AFK.
do, dude.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do in twos. I'm not gonna lie, dude. Them druids, they make me
um,
feel some type of
I've
way, man.
regarding this like the base talent tree, I've built a like more tanky version of Unholy. Like I see Unholy being played, it's the damp spec. It's not like kill them in the stun. It's like a
Yeah.
frost or like what Frost plays with. But I
Mhm.
feel like Unholy has to be durable. One interesting choice I've made, it's on the Soul Reaper row. It's right before it. It's Unholy Bond. This thing, I couldn't test it because I don't have beta access yet, but it might increase your spellward and PvP talent effectiveness, which is actually a very, very nice addition to the tankiness of the spec.
Yeah,
Uh,
dude, because we got nerfed in that area, dude.
yes.
They probably don't even think about it, dude. Us DKs, we're ahead of the curve, dude. The Blizzard devs, they probably forgot, hey, Spell Warden might be getting buffed here again, dude. But we don't gotta tell them about that. It's all good. I like to see a Spell Warden change coming back, dude, because like
I don't
there's
know.
a lot of things like this. I mean, dude, you could still die to casters so
I
easily,
mean,
bro.
yes,
You
of
get
course, of
caught out.
course.
It's crazy, man. But yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, I like that you get to choose for tankiness, dude. Cause
Yeah, it's actually a
I
good
think
addition
I
to the
agree
game.
with you. Unholy being the damn spec, it's generally Unholy is like the reliable spec, right? Like people might say like, oh, well, go for that Soul Reaper, dude, or whatever. You know what I mean? Go for these talents. But like realistically, it might be a little bit more boring. But like that's kind of what a class needs to succeed in PvP, right? You need to be well
Yes,
rounded.
exactly.
If you have like high damage, you better have some high durability to let you stay out there too, or else you're gonna be looking like a Windwalker running half the game. Because you look at Windwalkers right now, I feel like they can do some nice damage outside of this Kiefer's one-shot thing, but they're nowhere near tanky enough to stay in there, And
Yeah, exactly. That's
yeah,
the
and I do
the
see, I can see how the Death's Reach can be maybe a little overkill for something like Unholy, and
It it
it's like,
it might be. It's also because like unholy damage is hard to peel because it comes from pets and dots,
yeah,
and you also have range
room
coils.
to just stay really far away, right?
Yep.
You naturally the pressure leaks into your setups because they're already low when you go for that grip, for example, right? They might already be in a bad spot. They don't have that luxury to just sit behind a pillar. And that's one of my favorite things about playing Unholy. I really like you really
Yeah,
have
it's
pressured a
really
lot.
nice. Also regarding the base spec here, because we just talking about it, I've decided to take Unholy Endurance, which is the Bleachburn conduit right now in Shadowlands, instead of Martyr of the Darkness. Just because I had this build in mind to counter Red Warrior mostly with it, and I also think once again Unholy doesn't need that additional movement speed in my opinion because of the as I said earlier, the way of class fantasy spec fantasy and how it does damage. Mm, Regarding the Unholy Tree,
Mhm.
uh, I've came here with a build that relies on pets and dots. I'm also the main thing I'm actually curious is will Gargoyle do actual damage? That's
Mhm.
the main question mark here
Dude,
because
I hope
it
so, because there's a whole talent just to buff it too, right? Like,
yes.
if it doesn't do damage, bro, I don't know. Blizzard's got to wake up, man. They need to make it do damage finally, because we all miss our little gargoyle pet, dude.
Yeah, there are like two talents that are buffing Gargoyle straight away, plus his ramp up from the way it works right now.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm actually a bit hyped. I can't wait to test whenever I will get the access. To be fair.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I have a lot of happy things about the talents, and even when I was sitting there trying to think of things I really don't like about the talents, I couldn't think of much. But one thing that really stood out, and I think it goes hand in hand with what you're saying about Gargoyle. It's Soul Reaper. Soul Reaper, I feel like still doesn't do anywhere near enough damage in PvP. Even when you're stacking like really high amounts of mastery, it feels pretty underwhelming. And that's something I hope is not the case for Gargoyle too, because
Exactly.
I
Yes.
feel like it takes something as simple as just a nice PvP modifier buff. Only works in PvP, this buff. Let's say you crank it up by 50%, because most of these talents, they're tuned in mind with unrealistic PvE scenarios that they'll
Yeah.
never occur in PvP, right? Maybe sitting
Most
there and
likely.
you get so much runic power off that your gargoyle gets cranked up, or you get to just press Soul Reaper and proc it 10 times in a row, right? You're not gonna be hitting those Soul Reaper lotteries in PvP that often unless you're really insane at timing them, right? And I feel like it wouldn't hurt to just buff them up at least a little bit. At the end of the day, dude, these things are on like the last row for a reason, right? They should be
Yep.
more
Exactly.
exciting. They should be more
I'm
exciting.
Actually, I want to add something up here regarding Soul Reaper because you brought into discussion. Um, I remember last time Soul Reaper was good was in MOP, and that it was good for a reason because you could pair it with huge Necrotic Strike absorbs. Back in the day, Necrotic Strike used to absorb around 35% of your HP when you have when you're like fully
You
strength
can kind
stacked.
of keep them there below that 35%
Yeah, exactly.
execute range a lot easier, right?
Exactly. That's the main issue, the main reason that Soul Reaper used to be so strong back then, and it used to crit for like 50% of your HP. And so basically,
Yeah,
if you
it's a really fun and rewarding ability,
yeah,
and I
exactly.
think like it's really good because people, I mean, I don't know, people say DKs don't have skill or whatever, but like, I mean, I would like there to be more skill expression. I feel like something like Soul Reaper is a perfect opportunity,
Yeah, it
especially in
is
a
indeed.
talent tree where you don't have to take it, right? Let's say you say, look, man, I'm not about that time and stuff, dude. I mean, I'm not about. I'm just trying to press my A bomb limb and let it rip on kids, right? Maybe you can say that you don't have to take Soul Reaper, right? But I feel like Blizzard should reward experienced DKs really getting it down, and because it's such a fun ability, and like you on your own, you can just take someone out with a perfectly timed Soul Reaper, and it feels amazing. Now I think the thing about Frost, because it's something interesting, is Frost can take Soul Reaper too, as it's in the Death Knight general tree. I think Frost has a much more easier time actually procking it than Unholy
I think so.
probably
Yes,
does.
yes.
And you would think Frost usually stack a lot of mastery. You would think it'd be perfect, right? When the talent trees first came out, I was really hyped because I was like, yo, like it does Shadow Frost damage, it stacks with the mastery, and as a Frost DK, like when you do that big grip blind stun setup with chill streak and everything, you guaranteed are gonna drop someone either that low, below 35%, or really close. So you could get used to it, and like after a couple tries, probably realize like when you have to perfectly time it, and it'd probably be really reliable to hit. But even with all that, dude, and the reliability to proc it, it's still just not worth it. And it sucks because it's one of those iconic abilities that we love to see, and it's just not worth playing. And so that's why you see me skip it in my trees. And when I have the choice for an extra thing at the bottom, I went for Rune Weapon instead, which may not be as fun and hype as potential one shot
Well,
Soul Reaper, but it's good in PvP. Haste is always nice, and I do think it's to be as simple as a small PvP modifier buff. That's why I'm like upset about it because it wouldn't take much on their end to make it good again. And another thing I don't like, it's also on the last row. This is Abomination Limb. It still does shadow damage rather than shadow frost damage, which isn't really that good for frost because it means that it doesn't interact with the mastery. So from like most of DK specs, right? Like A-Bomb Limb is like that big cooldown where you're gonna find yourself landing most of your kills in. And in Shadowlands, that's still how it is for Frost. But that's
also,
because we have the legendary that increases your damage to targets affected by the A-Bomb Limb by 20%. So even though the damage of A-Bomb Limb itself is lackluster for Frost, you still get that damage boost, which is like, hey, okay, I'll take it. I'll take a nice 20% damage boost. But in Dragonflight, we're not getting that. And so I don't know. I mean, personally, maybe Frost doesn't need it, but I feel like for a big commitment of a talent like that, where you have to go all the way at the bottom of the tree, it would probably feel nice to see it being a big nuke for all the specs, not just Unholy, for example. So
I
I don't know.
also feel like in Dragonflight, Abomlin won't be this big scary cooldown, but it will be much more of an utility cooldown because
Yeah.
you don't have the conduit and you don't have the legendary, so the damage would be quite low, like
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
definitely a lot of DK mains might be surprised seeing that their burst windows and damage proportions are going to be probably completely different going into Dragonflight. That's something I've noticed taking just quick glances at the Unholy tree. You see a lot of modifiers going into stuff like Death
Yeah,
Coil. You could even, you could go down that train. You can get a lot of things that like it's nice to see the rotation switch up even if even if A-Bomb Limb might be weaker or you might just be using it for full utility, I like the idea of our spells doing damage, man. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly
And it's
that.
been
Yeah,
such
yeah.
a long time, right? Every time I play Unholy, I feel like I'm chipping away at someone's health bar. I still have pressure, right? But is the
You still,
pressure
yeah.
there because of me, or is it because my teammates doing damage and I'm just applying a mortal strike for them. You know what I mean? So I don't like the idea of that. Like I've played Wrath a lot recently, and even Unholy, which is supposed to be like the more rot kind of spec, I still see some big damn scourge strikes, dude. I see some nice damage coils, and like it feels cool,
Yeah,
dude.
you do
Feels
you
cool to
do
be
a
able
lot
to
of
take
damage.
someone out on your own. Like I
Yeah.
was looking at that the coil or there's a talent, I think it's called Reaping. Yeah, that's what it is. Where your Soul Reaper, Scourge Strike, Festering Strike, and Death Coil, they all deal 20% additional damage to enemies below 35% health. Now, I know DKs have had a hard time with closing kills out on their own for quite a while in all of Shadowlands even. Because before we got those A-Bomb buffs last season, I remember Unholy could still be played in Arena, but you were like a very like you were just there to mana bars and sometimes like assistant kills. You were never really gonna kill something on your own. And
Well,
I
it
think
was
things like these execute kind of talents where you can do some more damage when someone's below that certain threshold, it's really good to just have that power to close out a kill, which is really,
it
really
might
good.
be good actually. I have it on my pets build because I went into a more like Death Coil-ish build
Mhm.
Yeah.
on that one. Um, I think it will help you close out games. Like DK in season 1 and 2 of Shadowlands, it's where I rejoined the game after a long break, and I was a bit of surprised that I couldn't actually heal with Unholy with
Yeah,
my
it's
whole
weird,
burst.
dude.
It was like it, I almost like started crying inside. Not gonna lie, that I saw that I was doing like no damage at all, and I had to
Yeah.
damp to wait for like 50% damp to kill something.
Dude, and losing those games when you get to that damn number, it feels so bad, man.
Ah,
It does
exactly.
Mhm.
not feel good because it feels like they're just hanging on barely by a thread. And like something as simple as like a 20% buff when they're below a certain HP, it could just be what you need to actually get the kill. And that's really cool, man. It's really cool. Oh
Sorry.
yeah, something about blood
Wait, wait,
draw.
wait,
I
wait.
saw blood. What's up?
Hold,
What's
hold
up?
up, hold up. So I have one question. I love this conversation, but you guys you did this huge conversation about Soul Reaper, and like
Yes.
specifically, I was looking at Amne's. Like you're one talent away. Would it be worth giving up the 60-second, your Icebound Fortitude 60-second reduction to getting Soul Reaper? If of course, obviously there's that question about if Soul Reaper does the damage or not. But I'm seeing an
Mm,
opportunity here for like an RBG spec where you do a 3-minute IBF and then have Soul Reaper for RBGs as
You
well.
can you can technically do it's like a way better like swap. I had 2 or 3 talents that are questionable. First
Mm-hmm.
is on the third row on the right side is enfeeble,
Yep.
which uh, it might be good as an holy because you're like spamming a lot of pets, and
Mm-hmm.
it happens in Shadowlands every time I pop into like something like Turbo Cleave to die on my pop, and
Yeah.
it might help you survive, and it might help you reverse pressure, like this 50% damage reduction that you are receiving from that. Is still to test out. I think it's a good talent as an
No, for
holy.
sure. I kind of agree with Amy. Like, if you're gonna drop anything, it probably wouldn't be the 2-minute IBF. I think
Yeah,
like
I
IBF on its own, without that, it feels like a very lackluster defensive to
It,
say
it,
the least.
it is indeed. It's only 30% damage reduction. I think you can
Yeah.
drop either 1 point from the blood draw that
Okay.
it's healing you when you're low HP,
Yep.
or you could possibly drop that
The enfeeble.
yeah, that enfeeble for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
I'm not
thing
sure.
about Soul Reaper is it's like there's kind of a facade here, and that's the thing I really don't like about it. Is it's like it's hyped up to be this like big thing. It's got a cool name and everything, it's all the way at the bottom, and you're super hyped to take it. But you might find yourself going the boring route and just picking like the reliable stuff that is gonna be useful in PvP. And I mean, it sucks that it is that way. Maybe Blizzard might visit that and see like, okay, no one's taking Soul Reaper for a reason, maybe they might buff it up. But I definitely see where Amne's coming from with that, especially with the Enfeeble. If that procs at the right time, that's 15% is really nice. I mean,
Mhm,
I
Frost
mhm.
said
think
he was taking that Unholy Endurance, dude. That procs, and you have the Lichborn in the back pocket if it get really low. Like, you got some nice defensives there. But
I
at
think
the
it
end of the day, it is a
will.
little bit RNG. So, like I say, if I were to drop it,
Uh,
definitely wouldn't be the IVF. Maybe the Enfeeble, because that could
I think
proc
it's,
at
it's
like a bad
actually I
time.
think it's actually good because when you pop your APOC, you'll have like 5 ghouls
Yeah, you got a lot, huh?
milling something. So you would most likely have uptime on it. Not to mention if it works with the other minions like the Skulker from All Reserve or with
True.
it might have a quite decent uptime. I'm actually looking forward to see the uptime of it.
Nice.
Um, yeah, it's actually good, and I can
Yeah.
agree with you. Like maybe they could do something about Soul Reaper, but Soul Reaper would be a staple talent choice in PvE for sure
Yeah.
because it's
Mhm.
doing a lot of damage in PvE because
Yeah. Oh,
it's
yo,
so reliable. It's so reliable in PvE.
Andy, I wanted to ask you, how hype are you about blinding sleep being in the general tree, dude?
No,
Like
it's
being able to pick that up as unholy.
I will definitely pick it up as an Oli because it, I think Blinding Slit has a so high skill cap to be fair.
It really does.
It,
It just like you can really change the way a game plays out completely just on your end. You could just start using it for completely defensive setups only and just stopping pressure and
yeah,
playing for that
exactly.
damp win condition that you mentioned as unholy. Like if you know you just gotta live and you'll win the long con, something like blinding sleet into melee cleaves, it's insane. I can't really
Yeah,
even describe how useful it can be sometimes, especially
yeah,
against
I
some
think
like
it would
Windwalker
be good
monks.
against
It's crazy.
every other like it's another
Yeah,
CC you can do on a healer even if you're
Mhm.
not blinding. You can blind
I
to reverse pressure. You can blind to start a setup. You
exactly.
can blind to
I
do
love the
a lot
open-ended
of things.
nature of it. Like,
Yeah.
and not only just talking about the
All of you
defensive
picked it.
side, dude. Like, I love being able to take like that opens up so many windows for Unholy Windwalker
Mhm.
DK. Like going into Dragonflight talents at first, before I saw the ice cap changes they did, being able to take ice cap obliteration, I wasn't sure if Frost was gonna be that insane. It looked like it was gonna be fun, but I wasn't sure if it was gonna be insane. And I'm like, hey, look, man, if Frost sucks, dude, at least I can play Unholy Windwalker DK, you know, and I grip blind. I'll just pretend it's Frost, you know, it's all good. I got the double chains of ice, like basically a Frost DK, right? And so I like seeing that a lot, dude. And they make it really easy for you to take it too. Like you
Yes.
would be a sucker to not go for that blinding sleep when right under it you get IVF and the reduced cooldown straight into the double chains. And I'm glad that they've switched up the order of the talents a couple times to lead to where we're at now. Because before it felt a bit punishing to go down that frost tree. I'm not gonna lie. Like as I was frost, I would just get that the stuff I need and I'd be out. But it's a lot easier to go further down, at least for PvP. And it's really nice, dude. Um,
I
yeah, I think I like the offensive side of things for both specs. Something I like is I was gonna mention like some key things in the frost spec I want to touch on a little bit is these are things that like if I was a PvP dev, simple things I'd say is like, look, we just need damage where it matters, right? Because in Shadowlands right now, we're kind of forced to pick between some AoE talents. Most of our legendaries are things that buff Remorseless Winter and Howling Blast. And those kind of abilities generally aren't really your heavy hitters in PvP. And a lot of the time, they don't really seem that useful at all. And when I take a quick glance at the frost tree, instantly on the left side of the tree, I just see nothing but big damn obliterate modifiers. I see strength modifiers. I see frost strike modifiers, you know? And
mhm.
thing I was happiest the most is if I wanted to, I could literally not take Remorseless Winter. Like I ended up deciding that I was gonna take Remorseless Winter because just the ability to play the Dead of Winter's PvP's talent stun, you know, it's a nice thing to have in the back pocket. But with AoE talents not being that useful in PvP, I like the option to say, dude, I don't even want Remorseless Winter, bro. I'm just going straight Frost Strike and Obliterate, old school stuff. You know what I mean? I'm out here looking like it's Wrath of the Lich King without that Remorseless Winter,
Exactly.
and it's really sick, dude. I like that. There's some choices, dude. I really like that a lot. And honestly, when I actually did a little bit of some, I wrote all the things down from what we lose and what we gain going into Shadowlands and the Frost spec in terms of damage. And you would be surprised at how little you gain considering how much, or how little you lose considering how much you gain. Because I was checking it out, dude, and you actually, the only thing you lose pretty much in terms of damage is that 20% from the A-bomb limb Unity legendary. And what you end up getting, I'm just run it over quickly right here. 20% frost strike damage, plus 20% obliterate damage, 3% strength max stacks on that conduit thing. You can get Horn of Winter, plus another 10% obliterate damage. You get another plus 20% chance for frost strike crits. You get a lot of mastery every time you press pillar. And you can even get 60% damage on Frost Strike too for that Shattering Strikes. And that's not even counting the being able to reduce the cooldown of Pillar of Frost. So just looking at this, like Unholy side, we're talking about where death coils and stuff just feeling like they do nice damage, which doesn't feel like it right now, but in Dragonflight it will. It's the same thing for Frost, and I think that's a really healthy game design. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
I think both the people playing against the Frost DK and the people playing the Frost DK don't like the idea of doing ridiculous damage on a minute cooldown and then doing nothing for a minute and literally AFK. Like, you'd be surprised how many rage whispers I get, man, because I'm like no other, dude. After pillar, I'm outie, bro. I want you. You know, I don't mean no
Yeah.
habla inglés. You know what I'm saying? I'm out. And so now, dude, I'm speaking all the English, dude. I got all the damage, dude. No problemo. And it's really cool, dude. It's really good stuff, and I'm glad Unholy's getting that kind of treatment too. Really glad.
I love it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Go
I
ahead,
mean,
Amne.
I have,
Sorry, keep going.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I started DK. I started playing DK. You know, probably just like a lot of other people back in Wrath. I started as Frost, and I haven't played it since Kata because I don't know. It hasn't, it hasn't spoke to me like the other two specs have. But now
Yeah.
looking at the Frost, looking at the general and the spec tree of Frost, this is the first time in years I'm genuinely excited to play Frost.
There's a lot of high moments in the Frost tree. Like, when I look at the potential for just getting lucky crits back to back, you could be looking at some really short cooldowns on Pillar of Frost. And that's not something we've had to even like consider for such a long time.
Yes,
Frost.
I'm also a bit like hyped for that because you could play like Frost Sustain right now
Yeah.
in Dragonflight. Like it's actually you can open up a lot more comps.
It's crazy
Um,
too
Mm-hmm.
because when you look at most of the PvP talents for Frost, most of them aren't really set up things. You look at it, it's like Bitter Chill. You're getting 8% haste slow on your Chains of Ice. You look at Delirium, it reduces cooldown of movement speed, or increases the cooldown of movement speed effects, meaning it's harder to run away from the Death Knight,
yep,
right? You
exactly.
look at Spell Warden, you're incentivized to stay
And
in because you're slowing their cast speed. And
I'm
all these
thinking
kind of talents, it's like they feel like they all suck if you're running, right? They feel really good when you're staying in and pumping. I bet if Unholy got to play Delirium and Bitter Chill, it would feel insane because right now Unholy can actually stay in and they would
it can,
love I'm
yes.
sure they would love those tools. And it doesn't even feel right. It feels like a waste having those PvP talents and they're not even good for us. But if we can have that Frost sustain build like you were talking about, Amne, I think
Mm.
not only is it going to change the play style, but we're going to be able to actually play some fun PvP talents for once, dude.
Also,
And
I think it's I'm thinking about a single comp with Frost, and that will be Frost Demo because I really think that it will be a good comp. You will have the MS from Demo, and you will have the like disruption from Frost. And right now, if it comes with this sustain oriented build, you could actually pump 24/7 and sit
yeah,
there and
oh,
disrupt
dude.
there.
And that necrotic aura PvP talent. That's
Yeah,
another
exactly,
thing, dude.
and that one,
That's
yeah,
another
that one
thing.
too.
You get extra you just more incentivized to play with casters. And I know earlier we were talking about like whether we think it's gonna be maybe more melee dominated meta at the start of Dragonflight or a caster cleave. Now, I can't really say for sure, but what I can say is there's a lot more of a possibility that DKs might be playing with those casters. You might be seeing some more caster melee just because Frost DK having that necrotic aura alone. That's like, we don't have a Mortal Strike. That's kind of like our Mortal Strike, you know. That's like our little
Yes,
passive
exactly.
reason to bring a Frost DK to the table, and I like that. I like comp diversity. What I don't
I
like is that
always
Frost is like, you don't have right now that many options because generally the things you play with as Frost are things that do the same thing that you do, which is burst and then run. And if
I mean,
you
let's be fair. Like with Frost and whole Shadowlands, you had only one comp. Like it was Walking Dead from
True.
season 1 to season
True.
4.
Don't
Like
get me wrong. I love me some Walking Dead, man, but I want to switch it up sometimes, dog. But yeah,
the main issue is like good windwalkers are usually extremely hard to find. Like I
they are.
struggled
Cause bro,
to
they
find.
would a good Windwalker would be an even better warrior. You know what I mean? A good DK would be a better warrior. Like what the
Of
hell,
course.
man? I just hope maybe we get to be that warrior for once, and maybe the warriors out there and be drooling like, damn, bro, that Unholy's got super strain, dude. The gargoyles pumping hard. Like I want to play that instead, dude. Not boring warrior stuff. Hopefully that's our time to shine, dude. And I think like the tools are there. The only thing
Yeah,
that,
there are.
from my opinion, the only thing that's gonna stop us from being viable are numbers tuning, and that kind of stuff's easy. If Blizzard tries at all to keep the game up to par for like at least like the first couple months of the expansion drop, they try and like do frequent balance changes. I think it's very unlikely that one of the specs isn't gonna be good. At least there's gonna be at least one of the DK specs that's gonna be pretty good, dude. I'm pretty confident on that.
Also looking forward, like this Frost build really reminds me of good days when I was playing WoD, and I was
Love
pumping with the
WoD,
Feral.
bro.
I was pumping Ebola Cleave, and I really think that with this sustain build, Ebola can actually came back to the like tier list because right now there's no reason you would play like Feral and DK on the same team.
Yeah, and it's true. And the thing is, when people talk about comp diversity, the first thing that comes to mind is they're like, "Oh yeah, well that's fun. That's mainly a fun thing because you get to play with more classes and try different things out." But what a lot of people forget is comp diversity means every time there's a meta and there's like gonna be like, let's say, 3 really OP classes, the chances of you being able to abuse that OP class and play with them are a lot higher when your spec works with more specs. When a Frosty K is able to play with a Feral and run that old school WoD stuff up, there's a chance where Feral's going to be broken in Dragonflight, and Frosty Ks are going to be able to hop on that bandwagon. And it's actually such a good thing to have comp diversity. It's a great thing, and I think it's opening up a lot of windows for Frost. I don't think Frost is going to be insane in 2s. You're still missing that Mortal Strike. But in 3s, man, I mean, look, almost every other class is a Mortal Strike at this point. Personally, I feel a little offended Blizzard hasn't given us one yet because it seems like
Hey man,
Frost mages might be getting one too, It's a little messed up,
No.
but hey,
No, there's
Frost
enough.
mages,
There's
Frost
enough.
mages are getting Remorseless Winter too, like Remorseless Winter
Yeah,
Stun.
yeah.
hey
And
pizza.
so at least we get to play with classes that have Mortal Strikes in 3s, so it's
So,
not a problem.
what was that,
So what were
Popo?
you
Also,
gonna say?
Don't worry, pizza. You get a healing absorption with Rotten Wither. They didn't forget about
Dude,
Frost.
dude, that's so messed up. Oh, I actually like that you bring that up because if we are excited now about Dragonflight, I can't wait to see what they're gonna do in patch 10.1 because here's my theory, right? When I look at not even just DKs, but a lot of specs are getting some not really new talent, new PvP talents, but some like PvP talents that other specs have. For example, you look at monks, both Windwalkers and Mistweavers are going to be able to take Mighty Ox Kick. Mighty Ox Kick was originally a tank only PvP talent for Brewmasters. You look at the DK tree, Frost DK getting Necrotic Aura, Unholy already had that. So Blizzard has already confirmed that they're going to do a big PvP talent revamp in 10.1. And so I'm out here thinking, like, okay, so obviously a lot of our PvP talents are going into the regular talent tree, which means we're just gonna get them kind of by default, right? And so, with that being the case, Blizzard has a lot of these empty holes they have to fill because it doesn't feel good for one class to only have 5 PvP talents and another one have like 8. You know what I mean? And so, what seems like what they're doing to me, this is my theory, is that Blizzard is, for now, they're taking a little lazy approach, right? And they're saying, okay, well, look, time to make no new PvP talents right now. But what we can do is we can maybe open up some spec specific PvP talents and give it to the other specs. And you see that in the DK True Necrotic Aura. And so with Rotten Wither, that's the same thing, right? They gave that from Blood DK to Frost. And all it takes is a quick glance at that PvP talent to think and say, wow, I will never take that in Arena a day in my life because that is such a
Of
useless
course.
PvP talent.
Or you
It's
could,
the it's
Yes, it
it's
is.
the
It
most
is.
laughable Mortal Strike I've ever seen. They must have seen me complaining too much in the DK Discord about not having Mortal Strike. And they say, look, dude, here, maybe you'll shut up now, you know? So, I don't know. My theory is that they're just kind of like saying, look, just take this random ass talent for now, and we're gonna come back for you in 10.1, and we're gonna make sure you're chilling, and we're gonna bring some cool stuff back. That's what I'm
Mm.
hoping for. And so that's a good thing, cause like I look at these talents and there's so many new things, so many possibilities, and to think that this could be just a start is nasty because you look at what a PvP talent can do on its own. Just a PvP talent on its own single-handedly made Fury Warrior one of the best specs,
Oh
down
yeah.
from one of
Oh
the
yeah.
worst specs. So a PvP talent, if you can tell they do it with other specs too, like generally Mortal Strikes and stuff like that, but they can make spec change their whole play style, and just on that alone they can use that as a tuning knob for PvP. And we could be
Pizza.
looking at stuff like that for all this, all the DK specs. But what's
the
up, bro?
Outlaw
Uh,
is a great example of that
yeah.
because before they weren't. I mean, they were good. They were okay. They were okay at best,
Yeah.
right? And then they got enduring brawler or whatever, and then float like a butterfly,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
like, damn.
exactly. Just like that, dude. They've gone from the worst, one of the worst, to the top dogs.
Hmm.
And I like the sound of that because, dude, we're missing like a couple PvP talents, even at least like Frost. You look at it, and there's like
Yeah.
Rotten Wither. What could they do? They could, if you can give a Fury Warrior Slaughterhouse, and you can give Locks like this portal thing that's sick as hell, then there's a lot of room for some creative things. Like
Oh
I,
yeah.
I have some ideas too. I feel like they could maybe bring back the icy touch purge dispel that Frost used to have way back in the day. You can maybe say, okay, well we don't have icy touch anymore. How about you take this PvP talent, and when Howling Blast is procced with Rhyme, all of a sudden now it does an AoE purge, and that could be kind of cool. You know what I mean? With a lot of Frost's issues being fixed in the talent trees, the regular talent trees, there's a lot more room for just fun, like, thematic kind of like abilities to go in the PvP talent tree because you don't have to just flat out fix the spec with a talent with the PvP talents, which means there's a lot more room for fun stuff, like purging, for example, or like more like anti melee kind of things, right? Oh, speaking of which, people were talking about this in the DK Discord. And I thought it's a really good idea. They do revisit PvP talents in 10.1. I really hope that they change Bitter Chill from just a 8% haste slow
Oh
to
yeah.
a 8%
That's
haste
actually good.
drain. Imagine now Frost DKs just like back in the day in Wrapped with Icy Talents. Instead of just slowing people's attack speed or haste, now you're stealing it from them. That's a really cool thematic, right? Because
It
generally,
is.
if you
Mm.
look at a DK, just on the fantasy side, we're kind of like the Reapers. We're the Grim Reapers of
It,
Azeroth,
it
right?
used to be it used to be like that in Wrath. It's like
Yeah,
when you're
Exactly.
first
Yeah,
Weaver,
Icy
you
Talent.
to
Frost was like
You
the
steal the
anti
attack
melee.
speed. Exact. And
Yeah.
nowadays, attack speed slows aren't as important. So when I look at it, I feel like haste is the new attack speed.
yes.
Simple change
Indeed.
like that, dude, drains 8% haste. That could be really fun because with more haste, that means more globals to press Frost Strike, more globals to press Obliterate, and every time you press those buttons, you're taking a spin at that lotto for a crit. You get a crit, now the Pillar of Frost is a lower cooldown. Maybe you get a Killing Machine proc, stuff like that. It really starts interacting with the spec a lot more when these kind of things. If you said in Shadowlands, let's say, okay, now it drained 8% haste, it wouldn't even matter at all, because chances are you're gonna get that 8% haste to do what? To spam chains faster and press death strike a little more because you're dead the whole time. It's not useful for Frost like that. But with us being a
Also
lot
regarding
more like like a regular melee spec that just does damage the whole time, it feels a lot more normal. You can take advantage of things that most classes would like to use, you know?
What's that,
But
like
I'm
Amne?
sorry,
regarding
Job,
this this talk about PvP talents, I would like to see some changes regarding Unholy. I would like to see not the old necrotic strike, because it wouldn't fit exactly the class, because old necrotic strike was revolving around death runes, but the BFA necrotic strike, I think, because it promoted a haste gameplay. I actually hate playing Unholy with right now in Shadowlands in season 3 and 4.
mobiles,
You would
right?
play, yeah, exactly, you would play like
Yeah.
Unholy, you would play with 75% mastery,
Yeah,
and
and
you
it's
had
like,
like
yeah, that
5% haste.
A-bomb link's gonna hit hard, dude, but you're moving, you're like a wheelchair outside of that, dude.
Yeah,
It's
I was
slow-mo
like,
time. It's
uh,
not fun, dude. It's not fun.
it's not fun. I think high haste, it's high fun.
Yeah, everything
I've
feels so much
skipped.
better, dude. Everything
Yeah,
feels so much better.
I skipped BFA, but I saw some VODs back in the day when it's like people was stacking like haste corruptions, and they were like, when everything procced, it was like 150% haste or something like that, some
Exactly.
crazy amount,
Oh
and
Exactly.
yeah,
That's a
it was so fun.
it
It was
was
so fun to
insane.
play.
It's
key thing to
probably
pick
Felt
up
great.
is players love having cool things, right? Like players like having
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of haste. And if you look at BFA, well, Amne said he didn't play much of BFA, right? But I came into the
I
end.
haven't at all.
So
I skipped Legion and BFA. I've skipped it.
Okay, you poor soul, dude. Unholy was so good back then. But anyways, I played a bit of VFA, and especially I came back at the end. And a lot of people say season 4 of VFA last season kind of revived that expansion. And what they did is they brought in these corruptions, where you kind of have the opportunity to just go balls to the wall and get a lot more stats than you ever would be able to have. Like imagine like
Yeah.
end expansion, you have high stats like normal, but like times 10, dude. You can get a lot of haste, and people really liked it, dude. And I think that's a key thing to look at the Dragonflight talents, especially when you look at some of the other specs. Like I look at some like rogue stuff, and there's a lot of crazy broken stuff. And I think most people will agree, the game is fun when every class is OP. When every
Yes,
class feels
I
like
agree. I
it
agree
can do
here.
some crazy
yes.
stuff, you know. But
Mhm.
people talk about, oh, what were the best expansions that stuff like Mob comes up, Wrath comes up, stuff like that, because every class that was their
I
first time they were getting a lot of new crazy stuff, right? Like
Yeah,
you look at
I even
Mages. What's
consider
up?
like, and it's a bit controversial, but I even consider like WOD as a good PvP expansion. I
Hmm.
think that classes altogether were kind of close to each other in terms of power.
Exactly.
Right now, when in the starting in Shadowlands, it was a shock for me seeing that like season one warrior. If I don't know if you guys remember, but season one warrior was playing Kyrian with unhinged, and it was just charge and press Colossus Mesh, Kyrian
One
Spear,
shot,
and
dude.
Blaze Storm, and you'll be dead, because early
Mhm.
on, it's like two mortal strikes early on was like 70% of your health bar. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
actually, and classes like Frost DK couldn't do that much damage, but in season one you have huge utility from your Heartstop aura, which I'm super sad they actually got it. I know it's unfun
Yeah.
sometimes to play against it, but there was a lot of unfun crap
Yeah,
going on.
exact. I think I mean, to
Hold
be
on.
honest, Frosty, what's up? What's up?
It's all right. I love
Oh,
you
okay,
guys.
no
This is
problem.
awesome. But I feel really bad because we've talked for over an hour about
Mhm.
Frost and Unholy,
Yeah.
and
Oh shit.
poor Popo.
Poor little
No,
Popo, man. Hey,
no,
sorry,
man.
dog.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's
earlier I said I'm main blood. I, that wasn't true. I don't know why I said. I guess I was nervous or whatever. But no, I've been listening to y'all, and it's just I mean, I've been adding my own little tidbits or whatever. And for Unholy, I mean, honestly, obviously I'm not the best. I'm not the greatest theorycrafter or whatever, but from what I see, I am extremely excited. BFA Unholy honestly is one of my favorite versions of Unholy, at least 8.3.
I agree with that too, because I first started playing Unholy in Legion and played it for a little bit in BFA. It was like an extreme version of the class, like kind of like what Amne was talking about with warriors coming in. Does crazy setup with spear, lets the blade storm rip, and he's hitting like almost like 3 abilities at once, and it feels cool. It feels cool to do some crazy stuff like that and have these really peak moments in the spec. Like, Popo's talking, dude. That haste back in BFA, you really felt unleashed there.
But
And I think that's a good input, to be honest.
But this is the
But
thing, though,
also-
is that in Shadowlands, we're not going to have all the power ups. We're not going to have all the borrow power, the conduits, or whatever for a bomb limb. So a bomb limb isn't going to hit as hard. I'm expecting.
Yep.
We're not going to have the haste that we need to really pump like we did in BFA.
To be honest, it's not to cut you off, but I think that's probably a good thing. I don't think most people were happy about the spec boiling down to just one-shotting on A-bomb limb. I think we all missed Death Coil just hitting really hard, and actually not having to use A-bomb for damage probably feels like you have a lot more room to do some crazy stuff, like some cool, just eliminate someone from the game for I don't know, 12 seconds. You change and bring them to the corner and you just peel mode it. Whereas in Shadowlands, the game starts, you're pressing that A-bomb limb 3 or 4 globals in, because they're also just gonna be damage charged. So maybe it might make for some fun stuff. If they compensate the rest of the abilities damage to be good, then I'll be happy, right? Because I just don't want Unholy to do no damage at all. A-bomb limb do damage, then nothing do damage. But it seems like there's a lot of things that are gonna make you have a lot of outlets for damage between the pets and all these gargoyle and stuff like that.
I think
the
it's
active abilities itself.
this this was the main issue. Unholy being shit the whole expansion, from sorry for my language, but from start, and when they buffed Limp in season 3, it's like the whole DK community was like, take it or leave it. Like it is okay. We got this. At least we got some damage. Like we got damage
beggars
once
can't be
every 2
choosers
minutes.
kind of thing, right?
It was like that. That's okay. We cannot play the spec like we want. Like we cannot be the unstoppable sustain spec. But we have a nuke. They transfer basically they transformed Unholy as a sustain and as a rot spec into something like Windwalker.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the Unholy Insult you're talking about? Is that the tree you're talking about?
Okay. Yes, this is a tree that's kind of bakes in some of the old VFA gameplay. It revolves around a single talent that makes the whole tree work, which is Festermite. It's right before Unholy Assault. This gives you stackable strength buff up to 40% of your strength.
Festermite was really cool back in BFA. I think that was Azurite power back then. A lot of people liked it.
It was Azurite power. It's I think it's a nice addition to the tree. I've had 2 talent choices that we could swap out. It all depends on the numbers and how much damage wounds will do. One is Ebon Fever, that could be swapped for more wound damage, like 25% more wound damage, and that will be the Bursting Source talent. And maybe we could, if it's not too good, we could swap out Plaguebringer to Clawing Shadows, so we will actually do damage from afar.
Nice, dude. That's cool. I like that because
awesome.
I mean, you see in a lot of metas, Unholy sometimes kind of plays like an affliction lock almost, and you can kind of just sit at range and have a lot of this utility and high pressure and just play like the safe game for the long con, basically. And that's like a cool thing that's specific really to Unholy. Like no matter how much consistent damage Frost has or even Blood, right? You won't really see them killing you from afar. And you know, that's a cool spec fantasy thing that I like to see. And yeah, another thing, dude, you guys are dope, by the way, man. It's cool DKs that like, that like all the specs, dude. Cause I meet a lot of DKs today. I be going out to the DK hood and I talk to them and I see what's up. And like most of the time, dude, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm Unholy, dude. Me dead playing that spec, dude." And I'm like, "Bro, you're a DK. You're already dead, man. You play all the specs anyway, dude." And so like it's cool. Like we can all relate to this kind of stuff. And Amne's played Mop, dude. One of my favorite expansions way back in the day.
It was so
Popo
nice.
knows about that.
Mop was
Popo
awesome.
knows about that rat stuff, dude. Like, we go way back, and we all like all the specs, which is really cool, dude. Cause I don't know, like right now, I love Frost, but if I felt like I could really chunk people with the same kind of like obliterate damage here and there on Unholy, I'd love to play Unholy a lot more if I felt like there was like a lot more like high moments in the spec, right? You look at
exactly.
Shadowlands, like if the high moment in the spec was summon like a big gargoyle that you just buffed up a lot and you work towards, and he's got a lot of runic power dumped into him, and him just nuking the whole team, I would feel a lot more happy with that high moment than just pressing 6 globals, just buffing up your A-bomb limb in a row, and then you could literally take your hands off the keyboard and your pet and A-bomb limb is gonna do all the work for you. You know what I mean? Like I know like you're supposed to have pets as Unholy, man, but we have pets because we love the pets, not because we want them to do all the work for us.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? We gotta take care of the pets, dude. We gotta buff up that gargoyle. We gotta buff up the dark transformation.
If you want a pet to do all the work, play Beastmaster.
True, dude. True that, man.
Yeah,
True
exactly.
that.
It's also like in Shadowlands, it happened to me like a lot of times to be like kidney shot or whatever when I'm on my biggest pop and all my pets are doing damage and I just don't want to trinket. I don't want to do anything because I can still do damage if I'm like 7 seconds kidney shotted. It's actually
Yeah.
I don't think it's a healthy gameplay, to be fair. I don't think it's healthy at all. It's unfun for you as DK to press your Cloying Shadows or your Death Coil and you see popping 2k damage. I think it's
not
super
good,
unfun.
dude. And then you look at your pet, dude. You don't even see his numbers popping up, and he's letting it rip like 3 attacks per second, dude. And he's having a blast. Like, dude, I don't want to rely on my pet to do damage. Look at my camera, dude. You think my pet, this lazy guy over here, you don't want to count on him, dude? Like, he's half asleep, dude. And we're talking about Dragonflight talents. Like, what are you doing, man? It's time to wake up.
I think my
That's why Pizza doesn't play with feral druids.
True,
I think my biggest hit on Holy in season 3 and 4 combined, it was like an 70k pet damage. It was like a 70k auto attack from pet.
Well,
So
hopefully that's not the case in the future.
17k. It's actually like, and when you're looking at your like details chart and you're seeing like highest crit on Calling Shadows was like 7k. And the pet hits like double than that. It's actually a big question mark.
It's really weird, dude. It's really weird, man. And it's a sad feeling because when your pets are doing most of the damage, it feels like there's not a big difference between the DK that's played Unholy since the day it came out, dude, and he knows his rotation better than everybody.
Exactly.
Compared to the DK that just watched a little burst guide and knows how to buff up his pet and use the right globals for like 6 seconds.
I think that's the most.
Just let them do what they want to do. It doesn't feel that good. And hopefully there's going to be a little bit more skill expression in our rotation going forward, because that's something that just keeps the game more replayable and more fun.
I think this is one of the biggest issues that came with Shadowlands. Like, there's no difference in damage of like a 1.6k whatever class. It doesn't. It might be DK or it might be, I don't know, Shadow Priest. And they like 2.8 one or like
it's all just positioning and CC and stuff. And cooldown
but the damage is the same. Like everybody, like if you build like a Swifty one shot macro, and everybody can press that and press like Mortal Strike, and I don't know, like execute and whatever and do exactly the same damage.
Yeah,
Back in the
exactly. And
day,
I
it was
think
like a bit different. Talking
Yeah,
about
and I think
DKs,
like the lack of skill expression in the rotation, it isn't just an unholy thing either. Because when I look at Frost, even Frost being the more burst focused spec, it's not really hard to press Frost Strike Obliterate back to back a bunch of times
of
after
course
setup,
not.
right? It's not very hard, and the spec gets a bad rep for like low skill expression because of that. And it really the only window for skill expression is like doing the good setups and doing reliable setups all the time, which can be really hard as you get high rated. But it would feel a lot better to not only have that skill expression, but be able to just manage your rotation really well
Yeah,
and like
it will be
have
so nice. Yeah.
runes when you need them,
Mhm.
be able to find a way to like reduce your Pillar of Frost cooldown faster than any other DK.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
whenever
Sure.
you're pressing more than just Obliterate Frost Strike, maybe now there's more reason to press Howling Blast, but only in certain scenarios. That DK that's played every day for the past year, he's gonna capitalize off that little advantage, and he might just come out on top on the charts. And that's like the small things that just keep you coming back and playing more and more.
What
I
about
like, dude. What's up? What's up?
what about blood DKs though? Is there any like what's the skill? What's the skill set there? Is there a skill
I'm
ceiling? Is
also
it?
I'm also like I wanted to raise this question too because I don't know much about Blood, and I to be fair I
Mhm.
just played it like this season in solo shuffle to upgrade my gear, so I will
Yo,
just
me
get
too, dude. I was running up the solo shovels too. I actually had a blast, dude. I don't play
yeah,
Blood that
I
often,
mean,
but I was like, dude, that death chain hitting right now, dude. I'm like,
Yeah. Well,
and yeah, and it's like
I
the
want to
A-bomb
play
limb the E-bomb limb was doing all the job, like
well,
that.
I want to hear from
Yeah.
Popo though,
Yeah.
since that's
Yeah.
especially
So,
why you're here. But
Yeah, he's a
right.
specialist, bro. He's a specialist.
So, in terms of how much skill, the skill
yeah,
ceiling or whatever, you really like if you think you know your spec, if you think you know blood in PvE, you don't know it in PvP. Because in PvE, you rarely, and I mean rarely, press room tap. But in
Mhm.
PvP, I swear that son of a gun is always on cooldown. Because it's just everybody does insane damage. And it's just a really good defensive.
Well, yeah, it
It's
reduces 20% reduction for 4 seconds.
and
Yeah,
Wouldn't
so and whenever you end up like pressing it on cooldown, I think like you might talk about like skill expression, the rotation of like a DPS spec. It's like okay, finding ways to come out on top on damage, but for a blood DK, the skill expression and the rotation might come out on like not really wasting your rune tap, for example, or blood tap. I forget what it's called, but getting the most out of it and pressing it when you actually need to, right? Let's say they pop the Warbreaker and you don't have any rune taps because you used it on just some random damage,
yeah,
you get rewarded for having that foresight and that comfort in the class of just being comfortable with how much damage you're taking and knowing when you can like juggle at low HP to actually save it for the cooldowns because that's guaranteed you might actually die on the cooldowns even if you are like full HP, right? And so it's an interesting thing because I think with Blood DKs, like, I mean, on the PvE side, it's obvious the skill expression between like, a good blood DK and a bad blood DK. The bad blood DK might have already died in the fight, and the good DK, the good one, is like he's managing his stuff correctly. He's rotating his defensive, and with the rotation being very different in PvP, the skill expression is probably like the same thing. I'd imagine it comes down to like probably like not wasting all your defenses because I think people see a tank and they assume this guy will never die in arena, right? But
yeah.
I don't know, man. I've played blood in arenas, and that when that gets on me, like I'm Frosty, flashbacks to Unholy, you know what I mean? And it's coming all back to me just like that, and you can actually go down because a lot of your defensive is just based on
Yeah.
healing, you know. And so I guess a good way to wrap that idea up is it's like don't fumble the bag when it comes to your damage mitigation, and I think the same could be applied for probably the PvE tanks out there too. And that's what I've picked
uh,
up probably from playing Blood DK and the solo shuffles a lot. Is when I die, it's probably because I got too cocky and I just sent everything in the opener because I got excited with the A-bomb limb,
Oh, yeah. Like when you first start blood, it's PvP because everybody's saying, "Oh, it's bad, it's garbage." I mean, obviously, like, yeah, it's not Really, it's not the damage or whatever or survivability that makes it good, in my opinion. I think it's the utility it brings, because
Oh,
Utility's
yeah.
crazy.
right now tanks in PvP, that's what they're for. They're for utility, and whenever you're in a battleground that doesn't require, where you're in a team fight where they want to tank in a team fight, I think Blood fits that niche very well.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, stealing the healers, bringing them to, all the way to China,
True.
so they can't heal
Yeah,
anybody.
that's a really
Well-
hype moment, and it feels a lot more creative of a win condition to create than something like a DPS spec, where it kind of boils down to a CC setup or a big burst window. Where
Mhm.
Blood DK, like you can do something never before seen. You can quadra grip someone to the goddamn hill, and your boy knocks him off the edge, and that's it. You know what I mean? That's cool.
Oh yeah.
And there's like a lot of creative opportunities to do. And I really like that you're not punished for going down the Death's Echo route in Dragonflight, especially for Blood. Because if I'm gonna play Blood, I really want to be able to, grip people like a crazy guy, and that's cool. It's cool as hell. And like I said, a few times I played Blood and rated threes, I felt like I wanted Death's Echo every game. I couldn't take it. And now
Yeah.
you get Death's Reach on top of it. I think you probably lose the grip legendary going into Dragonflight, right? But
Yeah,
you get a more consistent double grip, right?
double
That's
grip.
more
Yeah.
you don't maybe the quadra grip could have been a little extreme, and we're glad we got to
I
enjoy it
mean,
while we have it.
yeah,
But
it was
it's like
fun. It
in
was
terms
it
of
was
like being viable in arena and RBGs, it's probably like maybe the less fun, but the kind of thing you need. Like not what you want, but what you to be good in PvP is just having that double grip baseline and that's reach baseline. But
Also,
sorry
yeah.
for cutting you off because
I
you were
want
talking.
to add a bit something, since we are uh, on the like skill ceiling of the specs. I'm a bit mad that they did not introduce back the presences like they did for the warrior stances. Like I
Oh,
think this is a big hit for the DK community, because
it
like
is.
uh like presence swaps was part of the skill cap of the DK altogether, especially in MOP. In MOP, it was super important to swap
Preach,
presences
bro.
right.
Mhm.
Well,
That's
I mean,
true.
yeah, I get that, but see, I disagree, but I also agree. Like, I feel like presences should make a comeback, but they should probably work differently.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
we'll
for
take
sure.
in
They should
Rad
work differently.
because of how threat works in modern WoW. Frost presence in retail would probably, because Frost presence generates additional threat, and you don't want some unholy, you don't want a DPS DK,
Oh
taking
True.
all the
yeah,
threat.
of course.
That's true. Yeah, I think Blizzard would probably like. I mean, I hope at least. I hope they would like make an oversight if they did bring that. Cause like I remember, do you remember back in the day? Even if you weren't a tank DK, if you pressed Death Grip on a mob, it would
Hmm.
bump up the threat. I remember getting kicked out of so many dungeons back when I was a
Oh my
noob
god.
because I'd be spamming that Death Grip like, yo, this is hype, dude. I like this ability, dude. And like I'm getting voted to get kicked out by like while I'm
Yeah.
not even looking, right? And so they changed that later down the line, right? Kind of
Yeah,
like
they changed it
taunting.
in like
So maybe they, I mean, I
map, I
hope at
think.
least that they don't do that. But I agree. I think presences have a lot of potential, and like some iterations, like really, like they really got to shine. I remember in WAD, it felt like kind of like how the warrior gets to do with D stance and stuff, and
Yeah,
it felt
exactly.
really cool because I mean, at least now in Dragonflight, we're gonna get a lot of options to deal with physical damage, so maybe it's not as needed. But in Shadowlands right now, I would love to have frost presence. When people are on me, like at least some kind of like feel like I'm coming out on top somewhat. I'm getting a lot of value out of this extra armor and stamina,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's really cool. And I think for Blood DK too, the presence is coming back and maybe be a window, kind of like you guys remember where Gladiator stance was back in WAD, where
It was, so don't
yeah,
mention that.
yeah, dude. The Proud Warriors, they were pumping hard as hell, dude, back then. And, I think something like that could be an outlet to making tanks feel less frustrating for people to play against them because they could be more like, could actually have like this kind of damage to tap into and not be really unkillable in the process, right? Like you get this instant drawback of going into damage where now you could die in a stun perhaps, right? And it could be a cool window to maybe go Unholy Presence and just let it rip on him. That's that's a potential idea. But yeah, I thought it was
To
crazy
be
that they
fair,
added Battle Stance, D Stance, and Zerker
exactly.
Stance. I think they got rid of Zerker Stance, but they don't. I feel like the Presence is honestly more
Right.
interactive. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the
Also,
Presence is interacting
I
with your rotation about a lot more than the Legion and I mean the modern iterations of D Stance, for example, right?
I want to like add up a bit here. If a good change was like a removal of the veteran of the third war, the stamina increase, and
Mhm.
bake this into like blood presence like it was on WOD or on
Yeah.
MOP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
because
it's like
now
that
you can really get that stamina when you need it, and the good DK is gonna
yeah,
he's
exactly.
gonna take advantage. He's gonna take the lead when he needs that. When he sees the chance for it and he presses that opportunity, it's gonna feel rewarding, right? And you don't
Yeah,
get just this
that's
free
part of the
stamina for
skill cap.
doing nothing. I don't like this
Yeah.
idea of you just
Yeah,
get these
it's the
passive
same.
stats for
Uh,
doing nothing. It kind of sucks because for the enemy, like he probably like, dude, why the hell does DK got so much health for, man? What's up with that? You know, he's breaking 100K right now. Whereas like if the DK that's really good, the RMP's about to do the go, and you pre-blood presence that stuff, and then you're chilling. You know, that
Is
feels
it? Yeah.
really cool. That feels
Yeah, and
really
that's
dope.
also like when you were going like blood presence to turtle, it had a huge drawback because back in the day, Unholy Presence gave you zero 0.5 GCD reduction
Yeah.
and
We got that
huge
movement
Oh
speed too,
man,
bro.
that
movement.
was
Fast
so
as
Now
hell,
fun,
dude.
bro.
Bro,
it
I
was
was
huge
zooming with
20% haste.
that movement speed too, bro. It was so
It,
much
it,
fun.
it was movement speed, but the huge part was that 20% haste. It was like an holy assault on you all the time, and I think it was part of the skill of the class to
Yeah.
go offensive when you need it. If you are caught in a stun with no trinket or IBF in Unholy Presence, you would die.
Yeah,
No
Amne, I
matter what.
think you're really onto something there. I think that's probably Blizzard's simplest way of baking a lot of skill expression back into the class because I
But
mean, just think of the simple situation. A DK that's new to the class, he forgets he's in blood presence, let's say, or he's spacing out a little bit, and he's forgetting to swap back. His damage is going to be significantly lower. And that's a cool thing to be able to for the enemy. It creates both fun for the enemy and the DK because the enemy can capitalize off of these small mistakes. I like that a lot. I like how Mop had a lot of these kind of outplay abilities like Mage Alter Time, which
Mhm.
you could like if you really snapshotted those buffs at the right time, you're gonna have this peak moment in your gameplay that you're gonna be thinking about in your sleep. You know, that's sick, dude. That's a really cool thing. And I don't know. I think DKs for some reason, dude, we get this bad rep. We're like a brain dead class, but most of the DKs, you hear what they want in the class, and it's like the skill expressive abilities like Soul Reaper and the presences, you know, etc. Stuff like that.
And
It's really cool things that's what we want more because I don't know, dude. I think the class was most fun when you could really line some crazy stuff up and just have a peak moment in the game.
I agree
yeah,
here. And also we
I
can talk about uh, Dark Simulacrum because it's also
True, dude. I'm so
oh
glad you
yeah.
brought
it
that up.
So okay, yeah.
yeah
So both of my blood builds use Dark Sim because one, it's there's yeah, you could take a lot of them, but you could take a lot of spells, but there's like a couple of them that you really want, and you need that certain skill level to capitalize on that. And
You do, dude.
also,
It's
it is
so fun.
so fun. It is so
It's so
fun.
much
Yeah,
fun.
exactly.
It actually is, dude. It actually is.
it
There's
is
so many like funny interactions that happen. So many like you can win the game with one dark Sim, straight up, and it happens
Oh yeah,
very often, dude. A simple 8-second sheep on the healer when you're
dude.
playing
Oh,
TFT or
uh,
something. GG, lights out right there, dude. It's over.
you can
but I
steal a
think
bob.
also
Like that's oh yes, give
I
me your bob.
think
It's mine.
it's a big problem here because you said like if you stole a sheep or a fear or something, but Shadowlands being like super cooldown trading
Yeah,
based gameplay, it's not that impactful. Okay,
that's
you
true.
don't have damage, you don't have any CDs up, but if you poly the healer, if you don't have any CDs up, you won't create any pressure.
Yeah, I
And I
agree.
think
I
this is
really hope
the
Blizzard sees the community's feedback to Wrath of the Lich King's like arena
Yes,
pace, being able
and
to kill at any moment and say, yo, maybe we could like tap a little bit more into that on retail because it's been a long time, and let's just see what the players think, dude. Because I mean, the cooldown trading meta can get very boring for sure.
It is. It feels
And I'm
super
glad you brought that
scripted.
up because I'm glad you brought that up because I have a prediction, right?
Mhm.
That with Wrath Classic coming out, everybody's playing the the old DKs, the first iteration. Everybody, or I say everybody, a lot of people are loving it. They're
Every
loving the
DK is
presences. They're
probably
loving
playing
the.
it,
Oh
dude. You
my
know what I
god,
mean?
yeah.
I know, dude. I
So
wasn't even thinking I was gonna play Rad, but dude, here I am logging on every day. But sorry, continue.
no, when they announced Classic, I was like, if they're doing they're doing Vanilla WoW, they're 100% doing Wrath.
Oh
So I've
yeah.
waited like 4 years for that, and so I forgot what I was saying.
It's hype, dude. It's hype.
Like,
Basically,
oh no, I
it's
remember.
still.
It's okay. It's like so. A lot of people are going back to Wrath. They're playing the Death Knights. They're playing presences, all these cool talents that we used to have. All these niches that we used to fill.
Yeah.
And like Frost being what's the word I'm looking for? Anti-melee, blood being a more fun blood. Um I think in the next expansion, because Blizzard, or I say Blizzard, Ian, so take this how you will,
Yeah.
said that what we have in Dragonflight is just the beginning. So I'm thinking that I feel like they will take ideas from Wrath Classic and then move it to retail, whatever
I
11.0
hope
will be.
so, dude. I think like
And I feel
if
like, I
Blizzard
swear.
does, they can take all the good stuff from Wrath, dude, and
Mhm.
keep all the good stuff from retail, and we could be looking at potentially like one of the best expansions we ever had. And it's hard to think about that because like for a long time it's kind of been the meta to hate on on WoW and Blizzard and stuff. But
Yeah.
like there's no reason why this couldn't just be the next Wrath that everyone wants to play. And they've got a lot of years of experience, and with Wrath coming up, like you said, people are gonna be like, dude, I remember this is why I started playing. I liked this, whatever it may be, maybe class design or the
Mhm.
pace of arena, right? So I don't know. I
Classic.
agree with you on that for sure, dude.
Yeah.
I definitely
And
agree with you on that.
and I feel like with presences, presences, specifically, that a lot of people are asking Blizzard for presences to come back.
Yeah, oh, dude, and
But
like the thing is it's not in the talent trees, dude. But like I was talking about PvP talents, it's very likely that like a one button presence comes into the PvP talent tree. Like maybe one it switches between whatever one you're spec'd into, and then into the blood
Mhm.
one, right? And like you could have a
Yeah.
damage one and the blood presence, and it's very likely that comes in. And that's one key thing I want to say because after like talking to you guys and Amne brought up all the potential ways to outplay people with the presences. I really feel like that's like something that a lot of people aren't realizing that could really use right now. It should be
Mhm.
super sick. I
Well,
think that would
Right.
make the class that much funner, and it's such an iconic ability. Like, just give it just for the eye candy and hearing that whoosh sound effect when you press it while you're mounted up. It's just dope. I think a lot of people would be happy to see it. I don't think anyone would be really complaining about it.
No. But again, as I was saying, with presences, Ian said that they're going to expand upon the talent trees. So I mean, look, a lot of people are unhappy that your rotation is in the spec talent tree. I mean, like I mean, yeah, they could have not done that, but at the same time, I completely understand why, and I probably would have done the same if I was in their position because you don't
Yeah.
want to bring in all of this stuff from Shadowlands and BFA, all the other expansions. You kind of just want to kind of ease yourself into this because switching from the talent system we have in Shadowlands to the one we have to a talent tree, it's a pretty big step. It's not something that should be
Players,
taken
especially
lightly. It's
players that
very easy
never
to
got
make
to play.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
especially
very
players that
easy to
never got
mess
to
it up.
play with those old iconic abilities, they might even be overwhelmed, right? So I can definitely see what you mean. And yeah, I think like a way for them to ease into that could be waiting for the PvP talent rework. I think that could be
Right.
really great. And I want to touch a little bit more on Dark Sim again, because I think with a lot of our talents, PV talents going into the regular talent tree, I think for this first season of Dragonflight, we might actually find ourselves with a lot more scenarios where it's like, okay, we can actually take Dark Sim here and not feel like punished for doing it, right? But the second that the second patch comes around and we get really good PvP talents again, I'm gonna cry because we're not gonna be able to take Dark Sim again. And it's gonna suck. And I don't know what they gotta do. Maybe they have to nerf the cooldown on it, right? Which I'd be fine for. I'm all right with Dark Sim being punishable if you mess it up and maybe you have to wait like, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds to use it again. That's fine, right? But don't make players feel bad for picking fun abilities. Like you look at Priest, I think Mind Games is one of the most new iconic abilities that Blizzard has introduced into the game, and you can see they feel the same way because they brought it into their talent tree in Dragonflight 2 for Priest. And it's a really cool ability that you can really have moments where it shines. You just won the game off of a crazy Mind Game. It gives both the healers and the DPS and this crazy opportunity to win the game in one button, and that feels sick. And they don't really have to feel like they have to pick a PvP talent to take it. And I think Blizzard knows why they do that because it's a fun ability and they kept it for a reason, right? And I would say Dark Sim is 20 times more fun than Mind Games. You can steal a Mind Games with Dark Sim if you want, and you can have the best of both worlds, right? So whether they gotta nerf the cooldown, whatever they do, just take it into the tree, man. We used to have it way back in the day, dude. And it was so much fun, dude. Even when I sucked at using it back in hey, I'm happy I stole the freedom, dude.
Yep.
Right? Nowadays, dude, I'm the Dark Sim Devil. I never get to play the town. You know what I mean? So it sucks, dude. It sucks. It's no bueno. I just want it back, dude. That's such a fun ability. You give me back presences and Dark Sim baseline, dude. I'll be unholy
So-
presence and running around my house for a year, dude. I'll be having fun. Dude. So what are you gonna say though?
Let's do a little theory credit. You guys have been doing a bunch, but so let's say if they did bring presents in, all right, like I could definitely see it where if they're gonna add presences, they would be multiple. They each be their own PvP talent. I can't see them adding in just a generalized one button, one talent. That seems a little too powerful.
I can see how if they were to reintroduce PvP or presences, they would go about PvP talents because because they've done that before with PvP talents moving to PvE, using PvP talents as like a test. And
I would like to add something here because I think the PvE guys will actually make some kind of riot if they don't have the presence.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
can see that too.
They also don't want Dark Sim, but
I
To be
think
honest, though, I feel like, I mean, okay, so Blizzard probably removed presences under the consensus that's like, okay, this isn't really, there's not much decision making here on the PvE side. It's like most of the time you're just sitting in your damage presence, and maybe on a rare boss fight you'll go your tank presence, right? You go blood presence. Maybe that's like their idea as to why they removed it. But if you look at PvP, the situations that you find yourself in an arena and RBGs are completely different from raids, and something like swapping in and out of presences is actually something you would probably do like all the time. You know what I mean? And if they brought it back for PvP, I could maybe see some PvEers being like, I mean, what's the point of us getting anyways? We're just gonna sit in unholy presence the whole time because our healers are supposed to keep us alive. I'm not gonna go for that damage loss, right? Maybe they would do that. People would still probably complain, but hey, just go hop in the arena and you got your presences back, PvE boy. You know what I mean? So that's what I say to that. But I do think though that if they did bring it back, I think unfortunately they would probably do it in a one button format where you pick one PvP talent and you get like two presences that you can swap in and out of. Because I think from the interviews I've watched where Ian Azakostas, he talks about, I don't know if it was Ian or maybe it was Halinka. I think they talk about PvP talents and how they don't want to add too many buttons in, right? I mean, that's why back in WoD they started pruning abilities because they didn't want players. Or maybe some players just felt like it was becoming too much, right? I think having three different buttons for the presences might go down that road of saying like, okay, we're getting back to mop again, dude, and we don't like this. And I feel like the simple route is just make it like defensive stance for warriors, where it's like you're either in defensive stance or you're in battle stance. Unfortunately, that means we don't get a third presence if they were to bake it in that way. But I think, to be honest, most of the time the presence swapping would usually boil down to, are you in unholy presence or are you in blood presence,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
That's
I think it would be fine anyways. Or they could kind of just they could bake in frost presence and unholy presence into one kind of, and you get like both the benefits, and then you get all the blood benefits when you go in that one, right? I don't know.
I think
There's a
that's
lot of ways they could go about it.
that would be kind of strong to be fair to get
Oh yeah, true.
the percentage damage increase from old frost presence from mob.
Mhm.
But I think they could do it is like one button presence swap with blood being the baseline one, and swapping to frost if you are like frost DK, or to unholy
Yeah.
presence if you are unholy.
Mhm.
But there's another question mark. What for blood? If you're blood, what happens?
Oh, that's true actually. I
So
guess.
I've been thinking about this for a while actually. Before if presences were to come back, what would happen if you were in your respective spec and you use that? So I was thinking, like, let's take blood for example. Blood presence could, because it could. I mean, there's a lot of ideas, but maybe blood presence could give like 15%, or probably, I'm just throwing a random number out there.
Yeah.
15% extra stamina, and like if you're in blood, kind of like maybe 20% or something. It's something. It's kind of like a small number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Kind of like
yeah, I got
double
it.
down. Like, I guess
This
like
so
if you
this
already
this
are blood, you're gonna have that what's it called, veteran of the third war. And
yeah.
maybe if you're gonna have blood presence now, maybe just double down on that, right? And
Yeah.
like I don't know. I guess they could take away from like the passive stuff to like make that feel more impactful without making it broken. I guess that's one way to go about it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm pretty sure Blizzard could probably figure it out for
Yeah.
sure. I think like they just need to hit that green button that says, "Yo, bring presence back, dude." And I think
Yeah.
like finding a way to implement it isn't the hard part. I think honest generally presences weren't really the most like complex thing ever, and it's probably easy tuning knobs. Like, oh, frost presence is too broken, just tone it down a little bit, and just like that, and it's fine, right? So I don't know. I just hope they make that big decision. I think that would be sick.
I mean, we never thought Warriors would get their stances back, and yet here we
True.
are.
Exactly. And
I
again,
I
we're getting
think
it back in town in the Dragonflight trees. It's
I
crazy.
guess since stances, well, actually, well, okay, so with stances, it's more you kind of dance with them more than you do with presences. So I guess Blizzard just, I don't know. I guess they just don't want us having anything cool.
So what? One of the
Or
little
presences, at least.
question then. So I keep listening to you guys, and often you guys keep referring back to the Warriors and what the Warriors have to what you guys have. But
It's worth noting that the presences don't have to be, presences as they were in the past. It could be,
No, yeah.
like Paladin auras.
different.
True,
Well,
true.
and that's and
Oh
that,
yeah,
that,
that's a really
hold
good
on.
example.
But that's what I'm
Go
just
ahead.
getting to, is that the Death Knight to me is like the antithesis to the Paladin, because Arthas was supposed to be a Paladin, but ended up becoming a Death Knight, right? So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that should be the thing, is instead of looking at battle stance versus defense
True.
stance, start looking at the different auras that a Paladin has and think of it more along those lines.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
true
a
that.
really good
Yeah,
analysis, dude. I think it's a good analysis. I'm surprised they added the seals back and they didn't do the same for DK. I'm really surprised because I feel like it's a strong like parallels there. They're like pretty
Mm-hmm.
similar, right? And both in theme and in like the play style and stuff. Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Yeah, I
Like
think
the Magic
presences
Warrior.
would be they have a couple ways they could go about, and I think either way would be fine. But
Yeah.
what's it called? I wanted to talk a little bit about the frost spec tree, and something that I didn't really like too much is on the general tree. I feel like we're getting a lot of cool things that we never had before, even more active abilities such as Unholy being able to get blinding sleep, and Frost being able to play asphyxiate, and same for Blood being able to pick up the blinding sleep. Now, when I look at the spec side of the tree, I actually see that there's no new returning active abilities in the Frost spec tree. Like there's no actual new on use buttons that you're gonna press and it's gonna have an active effect, right? There's a lot of new passive things, but not new ones. And I feel like there's such room for the return of so many iconic DK abilities like Icy Touch or the Death Chill from Wrath, where you just give yourself a guaranteed crit on your next whatever rotation ability press. Death Siphon, Bone Shield, and Conversion. There's a lot of room for like just cool abilities that people would feel hyped to have back in that Frost spec tree. And I don't know. I think the spec's gonna work fine without any of them, but it's a cool thing because I see some other specs getting some really dope stuff back, and them considering like with the Shadow Priest, I saw they made like a little post saying that they considered bringing back Spectral Guise for Shadow Priest, which back in MOP they used to go stealth for a couple seconds. It was a cool thematic ability, and they said why they didn't want to bring that back. I'd love to see them touch on something like Death Siphon. It's like, okay, this is why we thought about this, but we're not gonna bring it back for this reason, or if they even thought about it at all, because dude, that ability was so much fun back in WoD, and I liked it. This is a cool thing that I like about Blood DK is it can sustain itself on its own without a healer and kind of like have this self healing, right? Whereas when you look at the DPS specs, your self healing pretty much boils down to it's just not good without a healer. Death Strike is a really good ability, but if you don't have a healer, you're just gonna slowly lose that fight if you're pressing
Yeah,
Death
I
Strike.
mean,
Because
you
you're
should.
only
yeah,
returning a
and
percentage of that health back. Whereas something like Death Siphon or Conversion, you're kind of like coming out ahead with the healing, and you're not just trying to like pick back up in HP and like catch back up, right? You're doing like this big hit that's gonna cost a lot of runes, but boom, that's a fatty heal right there. And I think that's an interesting idea to think about, especially for dueling, world PvP, or double DPS 2s comps, right? You don't see a lot of double DPS 2s comps for DK anymore. But what do you guys think about that?
so
Yeah, I think it's a fair point there, and I
yeah,
remember like DK having
um,
a lot of sustained heals. Like you, this also adds up to the skill scaling of the class, because back in the day when your healer was CC'd, you could survive on your own if you
Mm-hmm.
were like, especially when the in the conversion in the MOP
Yeah,
area,
rebank
like
up a lot of runic power, right?
yeah, exactly. And it was like if your blood presence, your hero was CC'd, you would heal a lot. It's like I don't remember exactly, but it was 5% of your HP every 5 seconds. So it was
That's
a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. I like that stuff a lot. It feels, I mean, it's just not a good feeling to feel like your class can only live for a certain amount of time without a healer, right? It
Yeah.
feels a lot better to know, like, yo, if I use my runes right, dude, and I use my self healing right, I can live as long as I want. I could like kite this
I
guy out and keep death siphoning. That's a
I
really
would
cool thing.
I would argue that you shouldn't be
and
able to do that without a healer. What were you gonna say, Popo?
so back to the whole Death Strike thing. As someone who plays Blood, the class tree on the Blood side of the tree, I feel like DPS DK should have just gotten improve Death Strike, because as Blood, I mean, yeah, sure, I'll take it, fine, whatever. I mean, I don't really care about it, but I mean, it's not nothing. But going back to what Pizza said earlier, Death Strike is good, but it's only good when you have RP. And when you only have
Mhm.
rune power. And when you don't have
Yeah.
runic power, and it's like, you're just a sitting duck. And
That's
then
the
you
thing
die.
is what I've noticed different from Wrath DK to current DK, right? Is Deathstrike used to cost runes and power. And you, as a DK, you have a lot more abilities that cost runes than abilities that cost runic power, right? Because if you're unholy and let's say you have a lot of runic power, it's a very simple decision. Am I taking damage? Okay, I'm just gonna Death Strike and not coil.
Mhm.
Am I not taking damage? I'm just gonna coil. And for Frost, it actually makes rotation really unfortunately boring sometimes because and this is especially a problem because Frost Strike isn't very useful in the current iteration of Frost DK and Shadowland. So with Frost Strike being underwhelming and Death Strike being so like it's such a go-to thing when you're taking damage, it's just it feels punishing to even try to do damage with Frost Strike because you could end up just losing the game just because you didn't have power saved up. And so I don't know. Maybe they need. I don't know if maybe they bring back Death Strike as a rune spender, or maybe they just change the damage profiles for Frost Strike more. That's what I think they should do. Frost Strike. If it does more damage, you'll feel more of a reason to say, okay, I'm just gonna risk it for the biscuit, and I'm not gonna save my power for the Death Strikes, right? I'm just gonna pump 4 Frost Strikes out back to back
And
and do
that's
some serious damage. I think that's a
yeah.
lot more decision making. I think the more decision making, the better most of the time. Cause
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, Death Strike. It's just you can't go wrong with just saving up for it. Right? It's like
Fair.
chances are you're not gonna win the game with a lucky Frost Strike, but you are gonna win the game by being ready for a potential Korean hard swap. You know what I mean? Is cranking out 3 Death Strikes back to back and you're chilling. But that's a more boring play style, right? It's a lot better when there's high risk, high reward. And I think the Shattering Strikes talent in the Frost tree, in the Frost spec tree, it's a big step in that direction. And hopefully it's the only step we need. Because if 60% increased damage on the Frost Strike when you consume that Rune Forge is enough to make it feel really good every time, then I'm really happy as a Frost DK. Because I think like Frost Strike used to be a really fun press. Like when I play Wrath right now, dude, Frost Strike's my heavy hitter, dude, and I love it, dude. It hits really hard. And I don't think we should have to choose between either only Obliterate being the heavy hitter or only Frost Strike being the heavy hitter, you know? I think there
Yeah.
should be reasons to use one or the other. I've seen people suggest making Obliterate physical damage again, changing like the damage profiles on things. And there's a lot of ways they could go about it, but I think the spec will feel a lot better when it's not just either your Obliterate pumps or your Frost Strike pumps. And whatever it is, you definitely aren't going to press either over a Death Strike. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I don't know.
that's
How is it for Unholy? Does it
issue.
feel the same way for Unholy too regarding Death
Yeah,
Coil?
that's to be fair, I am never pressing that well against melee cleaves. Like never. I just
It's
threw
so
it off
risky,
action
dude.
bars.
It's
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 so
it's
risky.
way too scary.
It's
it's not.
funny
Way too scary.
because in the past people would say sitting on 100 runic power maxed out and overcapping it is it's a tell of a noob DK, right? Because
Exactly.
you're not using your potential damage to the potential like, what it could be, right? You could be doing more damage resetting your runes. That's what historically people would say. But right now, not banking at full runic power, it's almost like that's the new noob thing to do
Yeah, exactly.
because you open yourself up to a vulnerable like swap, and that's not good at all. And it incentivizes the boring play style, which
It's
I don't think Blizzard should ever like really let happen too much because regardless of a class is good or not and the viability is out the window, I think like the fun of the spec should probably come first, and then they can do some tuning from there. You know?
Yeah, it's
Right.
as I mentioned, like I cannot afford to do like a 3K death coil against like something like Kitty Cleave that's having like huge uptime on me. I'm just to reset runes, I'm just spamming death strikes 24/7. 'Cause even if
That's
it's
the thing.
super low, because they're like doing sustained damage and I'm healing like 10K per death strike at most, it's still something that keeps me alive more.
Yeah.
If I'm
And
death coiling for
here's a big
3K, I'm
thing.
tickling them.
Well,
Exactly. Here's a
guys.
big thing that I think is I feel like this, like we were saying earlier, some of the best changes and talents we're getting in Dragonflight are the simple ones. Just, oh, here goes some physical damage reduction. Here goes some extra damage to Frost Strike. And I think with a simple change, a simple buff to Death Coil, or just more options to spec into Death Coil more, would go such a long way in solving that issue, right? And a simple
Right.
oh, more Frost Strike, more reason to press Frost Strike. And all of a sudden, you wouldn't even have to like players will just choose. They'll just have more decision making. And I feel like that's good. But sorry, I cut you off. What were you gonna say?
No, I love this conversation. But I think we pretty much covered everything about Frost and what could possibly be, just take it to that next level and be improved upon. I'm really curious about Unholy and Blood as well for the same conversation. First, Amne, over on the
yes.
Unholy tree, what are some things? Is there anything there that you'd like to see, like you're a little underwhelmed about, or something that you'd rather see improved upon in that tree?
I think the biggest issue right now that I would like to see addressed is the Army of the Dead talent. In my opinion, it should be just like where it is. It's just like Magus is. So you choose from two options, either Army of the Dead or the PvP talent Raise Abomination. Because right now you spend one talent point to have something that you will not be able to use at all. And I
And you
think
kind of
it's
have
a
to go
issue.
down that to get to the good stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's
So bad.
mandatory,
It's
and
so bad.
I think it's bad. Yeah, I think it's kind of bad because
They
you
could
would
just
always.
fix that with more arrows going into other points, right? And you could just skip that if you didn't want, and that'd
Or
probably
yeah,
be
and that would be also a good change, but Raise Abom would be like the best change. And
yeah.
regarding
you know,
other,
I like
oh,
Raise
sorry.
Avon.
okay, you
Yeah,
can.
and paladins, they're getting lay on hands. So
Yeah.
either they
That's a good
automatically
point.
replace A-bomb, or they let us use army in rated PvP.
Yeah,
True.
Now,
that's true.
honestly,
I'm
I much
happy either
prefer,
way.
yeah, because there's one thing I do enjoy, like y'all. I noticed, going back to earlier, maybe I misremember this, but correct me if I'm wrong. But I mean, yeah, not everybody loves a whole, pet thing. Me personally, I like pets doing my job. That's I don't want to have to I don't have to do anything.
I
I
think
want
it's
to
cool.
put in effort.
True. I think
So
it's
I
cool
was
that they're taking spec in the sides of the talent trees and get
yes,
more
Yeah.
focused on pet stuff. I think that's
yeah,
cool for sure.
that's
Okay.
cool.
What
And
else were you saying, Popo?
what I was thinking about the unholy tree with or being able to use army. I really love how, like, in a more pet oriented build with gargoyle, with magus, with all your little buddies, is just the sheer number of nameplates on the opponent's screen.
True. They
That I
could
just
go about that a lot better, actually. I think that's where most of the frustration comes from
it
enemies,
is,
right? That's
Yeah.
a
it is,
really good
and
point, man.
a
I
lot,
think people wouldn't mind pets as much if you just had one guy, but more control over that one guy, and then an
yeah,
occasional gargoyle here and there.
and yeah, here's the thing though, is that I use that to my advantage, right? Like
Mm.
I will admit, I mean, yes, I play Blood and Arena. I'm a bit of a troll, sure, but if there's one thing I do like, it's using. So a lot of people, they hate it, right? They hate the nameplates, but a lot of people that hate it, they don't remedy the situation. They kind of just deal with it, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
if they just let us use Army of the Dead in rated PvP, I think that, like, I know I'm going off on like some weird like tangent or whatever, but
Mm.
it's really fun,
I mean, it's
and
a very
it's really
iconic
funny.
ability for sure.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
It
is.
is,
very iconic
and
ability. You can't
and
deny. That's like when DKs came out, bro, and you see people and they finally got Army of the Dead. Like this is literally like I don't know what other ability I could even compare it to. It's such a grand,
it's
dope
such
as
yeah,
It's
dope as
huge.
hell,
It's
dope
huge.
as
Yeah.
hell.
Yeah.
and it's funny
It's like
because
Blade Storm for Warriors, It's just
yes,
so
that's
like
a
over
really
the
good.
top, but it's like
Because
it's
when you
hype,
think of
I mean?
Warrior, you think of Blazestorm, right? And you think of Unholy, you
Mhm.
think of Army of the Dead, which Unholy is balanced around, and we can't use that ability in PvP. And it's like, why? Like, I get it. Like, sure, maybe nerf the amount of minions that come out, or just something.
Yeah,
I don't like.
It can be.
I
Yeah.
understand your frustration because paladins are getting lay on hands. I feel like if let's say like okay, no one's getting bloodlust, no one's getting lay on hands, it's like
Yeah,
I guess you can
then
have
this
my
like
army of the dead, I guess.
yeah,
But if they're gonna do that, I do feel like it's a little unfair for us to not get it, especially because Pally's got them seals back too. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
they're
Oh,
two for two on the
yes,
charts right now. Do we need to get a
and
W back in here? You know what I mean? So
and everybody has an AoE CC right now. So I say everybody, like a lot of people have an AoE CC. So an Army of the Dead isn't really that big of an issue.
Yeah, I also don't think it's that big of an issue as it used to be back in, I don't know, Wrath, Cataclysm, or
Yeah.
something like that. But yeah, that's the I think all in all, the Unholy tree, it's kind of complete, and it opens up, from my opinion, three different play styles. As I mentioned, the two specs that I've came here with, and there's another spec that's going. It's like focused on wounds mostly. Most talents are only on wounds, which might or might not work. That also depends on the tunings. And
Yeah.
for example, you have like talents that are rewarding you for popping wounds, are giving you runes back, and things like that, which works good with Fastermind, and you would
People
have
would
like a
probably
huge
complain less
uptime
about
of
the
Fastermind.
Yeah, people would probably complain less about the new wound system if we had like maybe more builds that make it feel better, right? I think a lot of people would
Yeah,
say, "Oh,
exactly.
I don't like being stuck hitting this one target." And you saw they added that one ability. It has the pestilence icon from back in the day. It's like a snapshot. It snapshots your
Yeah,
pestilence wounds onto AOE. That's a cool idea, right?
that's
And makes it
that's
feel
good,
better.
but
What's up?
it's a bit of problematic because it's 1.5 minute cooldown.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And
Yeah.
definitely weird. I don't
I
like
think it's
that at
kind of
all.
huge. Like I
Yeah.
think it's a bit because you don't have ways of popping AoE wounds other than death and decay and
Yeah,
spamming Scourge Strike. And
and
that
I wanted.
ability with
Sorry.
1.5 minute cooldown, I think it's a bit overkill. Even for PvE, like I think something like 30 seconds or 45 seconds would be like the ideal cooldown of the pestilence ability.
Hey, Amne, I wanted to ask you, and I feel like, especially because you're talking about pestilence, maybe have a lower cooldown or whatever the name of the ability is right now. How do you feel about virulent plague in like the current iteration, either in Shadowlands or even in Dragonflight? Because I feel like that dot has probably been the most underwhelming dot in the game.
Oh my
I
God.
think
And
it's
Yeah,
I feel like it's kind of
that's
messed
very
up.
true.
It's really messed up. And I don't know if what do you think they would have to do? Do you think they'd have to make single target and not spread, and then maybe okay, well, now it's single target,
I
and
yeah I know
now your
I have the
pestilence,
best
but no cooldown, right?
solution
Yeah,
regarding
what's
this.
that?
So I've tried after they nerfed the limb conduit. I've tried playing with different
Ebon
conduits.
fever?
Yeah, and
The
one of them was like going for Ebon Fever and the Plague Conduit, so it was 22% more damage.
yeah,
But the damage felt underwhelming. It was like
still very
2.5k per tick.
passive, right? Still
Yeah,
very
but
like
it was so low. I think it's like Frost Fever is doing more damage
yeah.
than the
Dude,
Unholy's dot.
Frost Fever is the least interactive dot out of all the specs, but it's the
But
one that does the most
it
damage. I feel
does.
like you
It's
can take
which.
Frost Fever away from DKs, and for Frost DKs, you
And
take Frost Fever away, and the class would play exactly the same. To be honest, and
it's like
Yeah, I think so
the
too.
solution for like reviving the virulent plague. Back in WoD on Unholy Tree, or I think even in Frost, it was Necrotic Plague,
yeah,
which was a
I,
very
yeah.
very nice ability. In my opinion, it should come back. I'm surprised that they did not introduce it in Dragonflight.
Is that like the Wandering Plague thing? That
Yeah,
one time it
it's
spread
it's
around.
it's close.
It's
So
something like that. I remember in WoD that feeling really good. Even Frost had it, and you had Chillid lanes too, which was cool, and it like spread around. It was really dope. I felt like that dot was actually impactful, and
Yeah,
not
it was.
that was cool.
You could maintain like high stacks on that if you could like stack up people, and when people if people stacked with it, basically every time it dealt damage, um, it would jump to another target. It
Yeah,
would
yo,
duplicate to another target.
what if
Hmm.
that's a potential PvP talent they could bring back for 9
That
or
that would be
10.1?
very very nice.
That
yeah,
I
That's
feel like that'd be cool. Do you have any other ideas or something they could bring back for 10.1? Because I feel like there's gonna be like a couple empty spots, especially after they look at some. They might get rid of some PvP talents that we currently have in Dragonflight, right? Like, so
yeah.
maybe
I
there
can
could be some
definitely see them
stuff. What do
getting
you
rid
guys
of
think?
raised A bomb because
Yeah.
yes,
a
yes,
lot of people are
exactly,
saying,
exactly. Yeah,
you know, because
also
it's gotten to the point with raised A bomb. that like we're not looking for a fix. We're looking for at least a middle ground.
Yeah.
Like I mean, personally, I like both Army and Raise A Bomb. Because I like the whole pets doing my job kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we're kind of stuck to.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
for the
and
record, my opinion on the pets, I think they're best done in situations like Raise A Bomb or Gargoyle, where it's like it's not the whole time, right? You have to like actively like send them out or somewhere, like there's you have like control over that. I feel like it's best done when you can really like maximize your control over the pet and like interact with them a lot. I think that's really cool, and rather than like always up, very like
Yeah.
AI kind of like
Yeah, and I've also had a thought the other day. Like I didn't really think much into it, but like maybe not having so many pets, but have a couple of different kinds of pets, kind of like a warlock, where they all have
we
like a
used to have
different
the
use.
abomination, little mini
that's
abomination, right? That guy
Yeah,
was
that
cool back
sludge
in the
belcher.
day.
That guy, that
Dude,
dude.
that was,
Oh my god,
bro, that
I
was my
miss that
homie,
dude.
bro. They
I
shot him
know.
down, dude. Where's he been? I got his big brother now, Raise A-Bomb. Him all the time, you know what I mean? He's cool too, but I miss that little guy because he could hook
Oh
people
yeah.
for you, dude. That was sick.
What
I like
what
that.
what if Raise A Bomb was put into the talent tree, and then you had a PvP talent that you put a brain in the A Bomb, so it had a smart AI instead of just being a dumb.
Oh,
True,
yeah,
that could be
that'd be nice.
cool. Or like, what if like that Legion talent talking about, homie, the little. What if one of the PvP talents was, yo, your ghoul is upgraded to an A-Bomb who can hook people, who has these more like stronger abilities, right? He's like a stronger form, and that would be pretty cool, right? I think
That would be.
like if we can have talents like reanimation, where you literally summon up little zombies, I feel like something like that would be completely within the realm of possibility for Blizzard to
Oh,
do.
I
yeah.
also
I
think
think
that
that'd be really fun. And it
That's
tap
the
into that core
reanimation.
fantasy. Like imagine we
Reanimation.
get like a wandering plague type talent. Oh, sorry for cutting you off.
No, that's all right.
But I imagine we get like that kind of wandering plague or necrotic plague into the PvP talents, and we get like pet kind of focused abilities. You kind of get just that same kind of choice that you get in the regular talent tree, but also in the PvP talent tree. And you could find some really extreme builds where you're just all in on the dots or all in on the pets. That could be really cool. But sorry for cutting you off. What were you gonna say?
also I'm also thinking like regarding the zombies. I think they there should be replaced with something much more reliable, because right now I don't think
They
if
have 5
anyone
health. That's ridiculous.
yeah
Why?
exactly.
I think it should be buffed, and if that's too strong, give it a cooldown. Like it's not really rocket science. It's a cool ability. It fits perfectly with the whole necromancer theme. It's
They
like,
go
come on.
about it a weird way with it having 1 HP, I guess. That's kind of like, yeah, they could definitely do it better for sure. It definitely, it looks really cool. It's a fun concept for sure. So
Yeah,
I can see your frustration with its bad state in PvP right now.
Well, it's okay. I'm more frustrated with blood. So
well, and that's a great segue. Is let's finish this off. Let's talk about blood. What's the things you're not happy about?
Oh, you know what? I wish we went to this subject a bit sooner, but no, it's fine. So with blood, with the general tree, improved death stray. It's nice. I think it should have been something that's baseline for DPS and kind of just. I mean, blood doesn't really need in PvP because I already have all this other cool, insane healing.
Yeah,
and I feel like that, and I feel like Unholy Ground, the D&D haste, and Death's Echo should be replaced, should be swapped, because I feel like if you're gonna go into Death's Echo, and like if you really need the extra oomph for D&D. For like D&D haste, then the talent's there. But I feel like if you're taking it for an extra grip or an extra death advance, that extra 5% haste in D&D ain't gonna do anything for you.
True.
And I feel that, and I don't know. I just really don't like Soul Reapers, so that could have went away, and I'd be happy.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I definitely do feel like I had to that more unholy kind of side of the general tree for the double grip. Like I think I don't remember if this still true, but I felt like I had to take, I think, Enfeeble. I don't remember, and if not, but with how it was pat down, maybe they changed it. But I remember having to take some kind of unholy focus things going down that tree. And I mean, it's not the biggest deal because I'm gonna
Yeah,
get a
but
that's echo at the end. But it does feel kind of strange that
it
it's
is it.
mainly unholy really coming out super on top on that side of the tree. But it's not like like the thing is too though. I don't want to mislead you though. But that death and decay thing, it's not useless for frost though. So I think blood really loses out hard. They get the short end of the stick because that ability to cleave obliterate that can actually lead to some pretty fun and interesting like strategies in
Oh
our new
yeah,
set
for sure.
too. So I don't know. Maybe they could do something better about Death's Echo because Death's Echo is a universal thing. Every
It
spec
is.
would want,
It's.
right?
I
And I
feel like
understand that
almost
it's
every
kind of
build I've
strong.
seen. I feel like almost every build I've seen has had Death's Echo, so I feel like it should be an easier place to get to for convenience
That's a
sake.
good idea. That's a good idea for sure. Or at least maybe more towards the middle because I feel like when you look, the middle of the tree seems to be the universal. Like, okay,
Yeah.
everybody wants AMZ. Everybody wants
Mm-hmm.
the short AMS and asphyxiate and stuff like that. You slide that in maybe where Wraithwalk is instead. And it's like, okay, this is like the core stuff, and it becomes more like you start branching out to the left or the right if you want.
See,
Maybe I want some
here,
cross, I want some
here,
unholy.
here was my. I just now thought about this. I haven't thought about it. I just thought about this 10 seconds ago. But maybe put Death's Echo, like put some, like give us a new talent. It could be whatever. I don't care. But move Death's Echo and put it between Blood Draw and Will of the Necropolis
Mhm.
because it's in that area where everybody's going to be anyway.
Yeah,
So you're
that's
not
true.
locked into the unholy side
Yeah.
if you don't really need anything else from that side.
Another interesting concept is so that's Echo. I think in the last Dragonflight patch, it got changed to also include Death's Advance and D&D, which is how the PvP talent works, right? But I think in the first couple iterations of the talent tree, it didn't include those abilities, only included grip. But with it including Death's Advance now, maybe they could find a way to fit it. Maybe it's like an upgrade. You know how like for example, you look at the Frost tree, there's a chill streak
Um,
node, and then right after chill streak, it's an upgrade to chill streak. Maybe they could put it down as an upgrade to Death's Advance because it's not just a double grip talent, right? It's also a double Death's Advance
I also
talent.
want to add like a bit of stuff. Regarding the passive stats talents, I think they are not so good all in all.
Yeah, there's one that's for
It's like
strength, which is like, okay, I
it
like
just yeah,
this,
it's
but the
just
other stuff is
strength.
But
Like
like,
then
it's
there's
like
like one for avoidance. Like, I can't use avoidance.
yeah.
I mean, not in
it's
PvP. Like, it's just it's just a road hazard. Like,
it's
get out of here.
avoidance, leech, and crit. I mean, instead of avoidance, if it was like 5% movement speed, okay, I would like
Oh,
take
true,
it.
yeah, I
It's
like
fine. It's
that.
good.
I
But
mean, honestly, they probably, in my opinion, they shouldn't even have those. They're like,
yeah,
that's so much
they
potential
shouldn't.
for more fun stuff. And dude, we've had how many expansions of DKs? They've got to have like some minor kind of passive things which aren't
Yeah,
too
exactly.
crazy, but they're more interactive, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like it also, or at least, how about this? For every choice node, not they don't force you to pick. Okay, this choice node is 2% strength, and this one is 2% haste or something. What if every choice? What if every one of those stat nodes you get to choose 2% of any of the stats. And so you
Yeah,
could
exactly.
stack like, okay, in this node, I'm gonna go crit. I'm gonna go
I
crit on
like
this
that.
one and
Yeah.
crit on that one, right? Or I'm gonna go movement speed on this, movement speed on that, etc. That could be cool because
Also,
now that's like a more potential to customize your stats, right? Which is something in MOP you used to be able to customize your stats so much. There was like
Oh yeah.
20,000 gem sockets you could choose, and then there was the enchants. There was like 20 different enchants
yeah.
you
And
socket your
not
stuff.
to
And
forget
It was
about
Reforging.
crazy. That was
reforging.
cool.
Yeah.
That was cool because that's more theory crafting coming
No,
into play. And I
also,
think
not
that's a
and
big goal of the talent tree, like new builds. But what
do
do you
not
guys think?
forget about reforging from up when you could like
Yeah.
Yeah,
actually choose the
don't bring that
statue.
back. Please don't bring that
yeah.
back.
And another thing is that we have like avoidance. It's like I really don't know how avoidance is in PvE. Maybe I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I'm fine without it. But like, why does it have to be avoidance? Like, it's arguably one of the most
could be
useless stats.
versatility, right?
It
Versatility
could be
would
burst, it could be haste, mastery, it could be speed for all I care. Speed would be a lot better than avoidance.
also, this
Because
is
with
sorry,
because
keep
with speed, you know, speed enchants work in PvP, speed anything that's not like already on your gear, it works in PvP. So,
Mhm.
you know, just go ahead and, you know, get rid of
Yeah.
that stupid avoidance
No,
and
I
just
think-
give us 3% move speed.
I think
Easy.
I think avoidance needs to be there for the PvP or the PvE tanks. Really,
Yeah.
it's just like the same with the leech. I think that's why that's there as well. But
I mean, yeah, but Leech is
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
it's alright.
Something I wanted to bring up is I feel like right now in Shadowlands, at least, no matter which of the specs I play for DK, I can't help but feel like I don't have enough secondary stats because I'm
Yeah.
forced to take verse. Every piece of PvP gear has a lot of verse on it,
You
and
know,
I feel
I'm
like
glad you.
what's up?
I'm actually. I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry, but I'm actually really glad you bring this up. I meant to bring this up earlier, but I guess I got caught up with other things. But you know, you bring that up that you feel like you're like into this one specific
Yeah.
stat versatility,
Mhm.
and I feel like in terms of how all classes work, all specs work, I feel like it's not really a spec thing. It's like a whole game design thing where you have to have X amount of haste, for example, for your spec to feel good. Like
Yeah,
I don't
but
want to
with
have to stack haste for unholy to feel good. I want or
Yeah.
blood unholy. I don't want to stack haste for anything to feel good. I want to, you know, if I don't have the right stats, I don't want to be punished for not having haste.
Yeah,
You know?
and I think with very boring stats like verse in the game, it feels even worse to have to, I have to
Mhm.
stack haste for this to feel good because
Mhm.
you're losing something that's universal, which is damage reduction and damage dealt.
Yes.
What I was getting at is I feel like we have to stack so much verse, and the PvP gear kind of like you're forced to. You're literally forced to stack it. You have to take this stat, and it's a really boring stat. But when I play either of the specs, like I feel like all these talents and these builds. Oh, I see the synergy with crit. Why don't I have more crit? Or like with all these globals for unholy, I can't help but feel like if I had more haste, this would feel good, right? And
Right.
so this is like obviously it's a more broad game design kind of thing. But the reason why I feel like it ties into the spec specifically is I feel like these specs are designed with PvE in mind 1st,
Mhm.
where as a DPS, you're not stacking verse over everything. You're going crit and mastery, for example, or
Yes.
haste and
Haste
mastery,
and mastery.
crit,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if maybe they have to go about it through the gear. Maybe they have to say, okay, PvP gear gets verse by default. It has an
Yeah.
extra third stat, like resilience, for example. And so now you can choose. This just makes even more theory crafting. I love that these opportunities for making builds, theory crafting with the new talent trees, but they could really step it up a notch with the secondary stats because if we're not so forced to take so much verse, our specs rotation in PvP can play how they're meant to be played because in PvE, and no matter what DK I inspect, if he's a DPS DK, he's probably going to have a lot of like non-verse stats, right? And I'm over here all sad, like, damn, bro, like I'm out here taking all this luggage of verse just so I don't get one shot. That doesn't feel good, you know? And I think it's probably a problem for other healers in PvP too who need a lot of haste, right? You look at Resto Shamans, they need fast globals to get grounding off, to get cast hexes, but their gear forces them to pick up a lot of
It's
verse
just
rather than that, and it
yeah,
sucks.
and it
I
just
imagine
doesn't
there's
feel good.
PvE implications though, but they could probably find a way to make it work in PvP.
Like
You know?
maybe it doesn't even have to be verse. Maybe it's like a a stat specific to PvP. You know,
Well,
like
Exactly.
resilience was.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
that
not saying bring back resilience.
versatility is the new resilience. Let's be honest. Like
Yeah, but the problem is
you have
that
to choose between verse and haste and stuff. Where back in the day, you just got resilience for getting the gear, and you could
just
still
getting the
get
gear.
the crit and the
Hey,
haste. Or the
hold on, but
mastery.
that's
The
the same on
resilience-
guys. Whoa, because that's on PvP gear. Like all our PvP gear has versatility, and then there's crit or haste or
Mhm.
mastery.
And that's
Yeah.
what I mean. I think what I'm getting at is specs are designed around having a lot of two secondary stats. And for
Yes.
some specs, verse is really good, especially in PvE, right? Like I
Mhm.
don't know what specs specifically, but like I know there's some that take verse, especially tanks, because it's obviously very useful for tanks. And this is probably where I feel like Blizzard wouldn't make a change because there's going to be PvE implications. But verse for most specs isn't interactive. It's just flat stat, right?
Mhm.
Where I think you look at a warrior, your Mortal Strike cooldown is reduced by haste. Or you look at Frost Decay, your Pillar of Frost cooldown is reduced by how many crits you get. That makes the spec rotation feel like a lot more interactive. And I think back in the day, we didn't have that luggage of verse on us. That's why you look at
True.
BFA and stuff, maybe like when we had so many secondary stats, Unholy felt amazing because you did all these fast globals. It's like this is probably what the PvEers are experiencing because in PvE you have a tank that's tanking for you, and you have defensives for whenever they're gonna hit AOE. So you don't need this constant passive verse. It kind of would go to waste. At least if verse doesn't benefit your spec, because every spec favors certain kind of stats. And like I said, verse is definitely good for some spec, but they could probably make it feel more you're more free to choose more fun stats.
Yeah. So okay, here's something I've heard a lot of people say, and honestly, I agree. Going back to Wrath, they PvP, is that, and honestly, I've been saying this for a while, but I don't know. I guess I kind of kept it to myself. Is that offensive cooldowns do way too much damage. Nobody likes doing.
I agree.
Nobody likes doing all their damage when all their cooldowns are going off, and they're not doing anything whenever.
Like so many specs suffer from this. It's crazy.
It's so annoying, and I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy Outlaw so much. I've been playing Outlaw ever since.
You got cooldowns all game. You reduce them.
Well, I mean, it's not really bad, but it's like you don't have a lot of abilities that affect the damage.
It's true. Well, that's the thing is you just feel useful without icy veins or without whatever it is, and that's cool because that means you're having fun. Like let's say we look at a Frost Decay, his burst lasts 12 seconds and it's a minute cooldown. The Frost Decay is having fun like 12% of the game or whatever the numbers are. Maybe it's like 20 or something. Whereas the Outlaw Rogue is having fun maybe 80% of the game.
Yes, because it's burst. It's not sitting around damage dealing cooldowns, and it's
crazy
fun.
Because most of the specs that do consistent damage right now are the ones that reduce cooldown of their burst. Like for example, BM hunters have Bestial Wrath almost all the time. Rets get wings procs. So maybe it's like we need to shift away from cooldowns if the only way to make specs feel useful outside of them is to just give them it again, right, and reduce it.
I think we'll see that in Dragonflight. I think it was an interesting.
So I'm really hyped because you can already reduce Pillar in Dragonflight.
Yeah.
Really good.
Okay.
And coming into Dragonflight, talk about blood specifically. I was looking at this tree, and I was thinking, going back to Legion, there was this ability that was given called Consumption. And in Legion, it was really good in PvP. I don't really know what it was like in PvE. Maybe it was good, maybe it wasn't. I'd imagine it was good. I don't know. But you were an absolute live lord with Consumption in PvP. And I'm looking at this tree, this blood tree, and I'm going, I'm looking at it, and it's in a choice node with Blood Drinker. Consumption doesn't do any damage. On paper, it looks like it would do great, but it doesn't. I mean, I'd argue that you're actually healing them. But with Blood Drinker, with Blood Drinker, you can use defensives. It's a cast, right? In Shadowlands, what I like to do is I like to use Blood Drinker to bait a kick, and then use Shieldcraft or Fleshcraft. So if they kick Blood Drinker, I can use Fleshcraft. If they kick Fleshcraft, I could use Blood Drinker. You see what I'm saying?
That's a little mind games right there.
Yeah, I mean, it works all the time because nobody knows how blood works.
You want to hear something funny? I don't want to cut you off, but just because you said that, I want to say one time you have Raised Dead. It doesn't actually work in Arena, but it lets you cast it on ghouls, even though it won't go off. One time I faked out a kick by
not know that.
Raised Deading a pet. Or not Raised Deading, by a Control Undeading.
Control Undead.
That's what it is. Control Undeading this guy's ghoul, and he kicked it, and I fleshed in his face, and it was funny as hell, because it doesn't even actually work, so the fact that he kicked it was hilarious. But I'm sorry for cutting you off, because I think
hey, you learn something new every day. But I
Yeah.
feel like either they fix consumption, because I really love the idea of you just having like, just this big two-headed sword or axe, no mace, because you're not a real DK if you use a mace.
True.
It's just you just swing it, just and you just
Yeah.
heal for a shit ton, But excuse me, pardon my French. I didn't mean, but
That wasn't French.
it's just but I feel like it should just be better. That's the thing with a lot of
It's
blood
a hype
talents.
ability, yeah.
It should just be better. And
It's like Soul Reaper, dude. It's a cool
Just-
ability that just
Yeah.
for some reason, because of numbers, to satisfy.
And-
You know what I mean?
and what's crazy is that one of Blood DK's hardest hitting abilities is Blood Drinker. It's a channel that drains health, it heals for a lot, and does insane damage. Like I've gotten kills with it. It's insane.
It looks cool too. I like that ability.
It's hella cool.
That's the suck right there, dude.
Oh man. But
Alright,
I
guys.
mean that I got one more point to make.
Okay.
And then with there's this kind of like this build I have, kind of like it's like a burst damage build where you take it's like Tombstone, it consumes it consumes bone shield charges, right? You pair that up. It's bugged right now, but I made a build assuming the bug gets fixed. Assuming everything goes great. Shattering Bone deals triple Shattering Bone, what it does is it deals like a lot of damage when a charge of Bone Shield is consumed. And with Tombstone, taking, I think it was like 4 or 6, I believe. No, it was 5, excuse me. And this is why I take Death's Echo. I try to, at least.
Yeah.
And you take it, you can grip them in, put down Death and Decay, and then Shattering Bone, the talent that does the Bone Shield damage, it triples while you're in Death and Decay.
Oh,
And,
that would be interesting because there's all these Death and Decay talents you're forced to take, right? And make it feel a lot better, right?
Right. And what's funny is that with all these Death and Decay things, I still didn't take Wither, Rotten Wither.
Yeah, you're smart. You're smart, man.
And-
Don't
and
fall
then-
for the propaganda of Rotten
No,
Wither,
dude,
dude. It's not worth it, dude. It's not worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and then
Alright.
it's like Bone Storm. It's a really good single target. I'm really happy in general, but some things could change.
I think
It's just a little TLC and it's fine.
I think listening to this whole conversation, lots of fun choices, lots of hype for what's coming down the pipe for Dragonflight. Obviously, there's probably one more pass that they could do on this, and again, the PvP talents not really being updated. I'm happy that they've taken the chill streak out of the PvP talents and put that into the general tree. Same with Death's Echo, but I still feel like there's another iteration there of PvP talents. Pizza, I really hope I really hope you're right, and that we'll see a much better iteration of PvP talents by 10.1. I was hoping earlier than that. I'm gonna be flat out honest though. I really think that Rotten Wither is there. I don't think they're going to be changing that. If it gets implemented in 10.0, if it gets implemented in 10.0, I think it's there to stay. I don't think they're gonna switch it out in one patch.
I thought it was like just a placeholder because they don't have any.
Oh, it might be. It might be, but I'm saying
that makes sense because if they're gonna say 10.1, that's when you're getting it. Look, man, just take this for now. We can't leave you with no choice. That'd be weird. The UI wouldn't work, right? So hopefully that's it, dude. I'm hopeful, dude.
I mean, honestly, I really don't see how it wouldn't be a placeholder because I can't think, other than stopping a healer from drinking, I don't see why a Frost DK would use Death and Decay.
Yeah.
Maybe get a.
I mean, you're not using it even as an unholy. Like it's. I tried to play around in Shadowlands as a Night Fae.
Yeah,
it's not working.
It's just no, it's not.
That's
a shame.
All right, guys. Well, on that, I want to thank you all for joining me. We got to wrap this up, though. It's been 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yo, I'm fuzzy,
I mean, it's a lot to talk about. So
I love talking to you guys, man. I was love finally getting in texting to them in the DK Discord all the time. They're super chill, dude. You know,
Yeah.
Amne and Popo, they're the boys right there. You know what I'm saying? DK,
Yeah.
You guys
French
are
class
awesome.
gang, rise up. And dude,
Yeah. Represent.
you know the
Let's
host
go.
especially for bringing us together. He's a funny dude, yo.
Yeah, it was
If y'all
super
like it,
fun
y'all gotta
session.
drop some follows, man, because he's
And
got mad podcasts on the way for sure. Bro.
oh yeah, I watched some. I loved those podcasts.
Thanks,
Yeah.
I
guys.
did.
I love
Nice.
seeing people that just try and keep the PvP movement going.
Yeah,
That's, if
and-
it's not for podcasts like these, do you think Blizzard would come out with like PvP talent announcements for 10.1? They could put their resources
Maybe.
elsewhere. You know what I mean? So it's the people that like us that keep it going, man. You know what I'm saying? So
You guys
And
are
another
awesome.
thing is that tanks in PvP are generally looked down upon. It's really
Mhm.
nice to see a change of pace. You know, somebody that takes in, people who play everything. You know, like me, I play DPS, I play healer, I play tank. You know, DPS and healer, obviously, that's what you want. That's what most people want, PvP. But, I do enjoy tank. And that's like a very controversial opinion, apparently. And it's nice to see.
Gerissar
It's
seems
nice.
like a supporter of the Blood Boys, dude. So you always got a friend in him, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
And us too,
And-
dude. I think it's a cool spec. So
Yeah.
boys.
So
I
I'm
love
just,
greasing kids up as a tank sometimes. It's funny as hell.
I'm just glad that PvP tanks have a way to get their voice out there
True.
Oh.
in terms of
I-
podcasts or whatever.
I like to try to have all the angles available, right? Because and really this is all about information. It's about getting everybody a chance to speak, not just one or twos.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, on that, I guess just quickly, start with you, Amne. Where can people find you if they really wanna?
Well, they can reach me on my Twitter
Yep.
at Amnetv
Mm-hmm.
and on Discord.
All right. And how
Good.
about you there, Pizza?
You guys, you hold on. Is my mic working? Because my headset.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
probably
you guys can catch me on Pizzadawg D. My YouTube, just Pizzadawg, and on Twitter too, Pizzadawg DK. Man, you know what it is. And
DK.
I always talk to people.
Oh, and now he's
man.
cutting
Oh.
out.
So
no,
trust me,
he's
don't
cut
feel
out.
ashamed to message me stuff. I'm always down to answer questions.
Discord
Hey,
doesn't
Doug.
like you, Pizza.
Yeah, it's something. I guess it's personal. I don't know what you did, but you heard it.
Yeah.
You heard Discord.
It's all good. It's all good. But
Yeah.
ultimately, Pizzadawg DK, wherever you want to find him. Popo,
So
where are you at?
So I shit post. Sorry again. I shit post on Instagram warlord.gmg, or I'm in the Discord. I'm in the DK Discord in the PvP. Just talking to Pizza, talking to Amne. Talking
Awesome.
to all these other DK enthusiasts. I'm always there if you need me. You know where to find me.
Right. So when in doubt, go to the
Yeah.
Acurus Discord there, the DK Discord, and we'll find you guys.
Mhm.
And
yeah.
if anybody's
One
looking
more
for,
thing.
oh,
If you
yes.
ever need mediocre blood DK tips, I'm your guy. If you ever wanted average blood DK, yeah.
Well, I think the fact that you're playing Blood PvP is pretty hype to begin with. So I wouldn't say that that's so average. But for me, I'm Gerissar. If you want to find me at Technically PvP over on the Twitters, or just Google Technically PvP and I'm sure you'll find us. Thank you, everybody. And this will be up on the Bonus World Productions YouTube in a few days. Take care. Good night.